Paulie, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. How are you?
It's going real well. Guys, if you couldn't tell, this is the Thy&Smi podcast. We are simulcasting on the Bears Country Productions channel, as well as over on BearskiFilm. BearskiFilm's got the YouTube and the Facebook account going, so if you guys are not subscribed or following either of these channels, consider subscribing to either of them. But we've got a very, very exciting episode for you guys today. I wanted to do some sort of episode with kind of like a mock off season, and I'm calling it on my channel version 0 because I don't have anything concrete set up. I kind of just wanted to spitball kind of like a framework, right? Like what are we kind of aiming towards? Then as we're getting geared up for the episode today, we figured out we got a bombshell. Eric Bieniemy is the new running backs coach for the Chicago Bears. That's right, not the offensive coordinator, not anything other than just a mind for the running backs. I cannot get over this, and I saw that comment to start everything off. J2K, you are spot on, my friend. This is probably the coaching staff since Hallis and Ditka. I'd have to agree at this point, or at least on paper. Paulie, what are your thoughts on this beautiful coaching staff that the Chicago Bears are assembling up to this point?
So if you could follow that up with J2K's second comment,
Let's go for it. Let's
which
go for it.
which I love, let the backpedaling begin. There will be none of that. And it's because I don't know. I don't differentiate. I still have my preferences. My preference was Vrabel. Obviously, it didn't happen. Obviously, the Patriots were the situation that was obvious where he was going to. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I did not or do not have doubts about Ben Johnson. However, I will give credit where credit's due. I don't know exactly how excited I can truly get just because of the history, man. We've all lived through it. I'm at such a I gotta see it point, and I know that's such a lame answer because I could just ride that out till the end of the season. So I'll tell you this: like when we got Ben Johnson, I was probably like 35% excited, 65% still worried. And now, over the course of time since he's been hired, I'm probably closer to that 50-50 mark, which is as excited as I'm going to be willing to get. So this it's huge. It's huge to me that he was able to, get Randall L from the Lions to come over. I think that's big, and I think that says a lot. It is really big that we have a running backs coach that's super overqualified, and that's great, man. That's what you need to do. You need to fill the entire building with football guys. I mean, dude, Eric Bieniemy is pretty much Thomas Brown of last year, right? Like, I mean, I know he was a passing game coordinator, but like we have options now, and so, yeah,
I love J2K, man.
hilarious. No, like, dude, like I'm not gonna sit here and ever pretend that I'm gonna be right all the time. I'm gonna just tell you what I prefer, and like I said, and that's why there's no backpedaling because I preferred Vrabel. To me, it's going to be extremely interesting to sit there and watch the Patriots from afar because didn't they hire Thomas Brown? I forget for what position exactly.
Let me see if I can figure that out, but you
But
are
I'm
right.
pretty sure
Thomas
he's on
Brown is a
Vrabel's
member of the
staff.
New England Patriots. That's fact.
So it's just going to be very interesting to sit here from afar and just kind of, look at their situation and compare it to our situation because it's very similar. And so, yeah, a lot of people are excited about Ben Johnson. Yep.
Thomas Brown was hired to the New England Patriots to be their offensive passing game coordinator and tight ends coach.
Thank you, Thy. Always on it, man. So, yeah, I'm now more excited because of Dennis Allen, because of Eric Bieniemy. I'm cool with keeping Hightower. Yes, he has been getting some really good coaches. I mean, and that wasn't a for sure thing. You know what I mean? You didn't know if he was going to be able to sit there and put together a good coaching staff. And so far, he has checked that off the box. Everything's looking really good. So, yeah, I mean, this is a slam dunk hire, in my opinion, for sure.
And Ben Johnson is kind of mirroring this, youth movement where he's bringing in Declan Doyle to be his offensive coordinator. Obviously, everyone watching this knows Ben Johnson will be the offensive coordinator by trade. He will be the one calling the plays. And the offensive coordinator, I don't know if that title is going to carry that much weight. I think in the grand scheme, Your assistant head coach, which is Antoine Randall L, is probably going to be, I'd call it the second in command on the offense. Declan Doyle essentially is going to be doing the dirty work for Ben Johnson. He's going to be the one watching a lot of film, grinding that all out. And that's why he's young, right? You don't want, an Eric Bieniemy selecting when he wants to watch certain amounts of film and kind of having a stained, imprint on the whole offense as a whole, right? I had texted briefly with PJ on the Bears Country podcast. We all know PJ. He said that maybe Bieniemy would have been a better offensive coordinator for this type of role. And all I meant by saying that I disagreed with it was that I don't want him to have, him being Eric Bieniemy, right? I don't want Eric Bieniemy to have an imprint on the offense as far as the outcome with the plays and anything like that. I think that the running backs coach position for Eric Bieniemy on the Chicago Bears is perfect because he gets to bring his leadership, his prowess, his expertise, his Super Bowl winning tendencies to the Chicago Bears coaching staff while not negatively impacting Ben Johnson's offense, if that makes sense, right? So mirror that to the defense. You need a lot more than what I just explained, and Dennis Allen, in my opinion, is perfect. He's essentially the head coach of the defense, which is fine. You don't want your first-time young head coach who's an offensive whiz kid to have to waste his brain power on figuring out the defense as well. And it's very exciting that the Chicago Bears are not moving towards a 3-4 scheme where they need to bring in a lot more pieces. They need to retool everything. Oh, just give us a couple years to get this defense right. No, Dennis Allen's talking about how this defense can kind of, win now. When he was asked about the situation at whole, I'm pretty sure Dennis Allen said that he was looking at some of the options that would be potentially available to himself, and he listed Chicago as a team where he thought that they had the pieces in place to kind of hit the ground running. And when Ben Johnson reached out to him, he's like, oh my God, this is a match made in heaven. And here we are. Dobbsy, really good comment from you. Eric played running back for a few years. I believe you're saying years. I'll have to look into that, but I do remember that Eric Bieniemy has some sort of background regarding running backs, and that's why he's taking that position. Now, what gets interesting here is the title of him being the running backs coach. Does that mean that there's going to be wholesale sweeping changes to the room? And that's kind of what I wanted to delve in with you, Paulie. What are your thoughts on this running back room as a whole? I saw a great comment earlier as well, just regarding what he could potentially do with the likes of Roschon Johnson and Ian Wheeler. What are you feeling about this running back room as a whole right now, Paulie?
So, first off, I just want to say, just with the pecking order of things, if Doyle doesn't do a good enough job, you can move on because you have somebody else. And I know you don't want him to have control of the offense and this and that and whatever. At the end of the day, Ben Johnson's calling plays, right? But it's just nice to have, options when it comes to the latter of things. But listen, the only thing for this way to work with a coach that's going to be offensive minded, it's going to be like when we hired Matt Nagy. I mean, you need a Vic Fangio on the other side. You just need a guy on the other side that's willing to take care of his. And that's what the Chiefs have. Steve Spagnuolo, he was a head coach. He's got that defense. It's all under him. And that lets Andy Reid be Andy Reid and do his thing. So if, me personally, I like more of the top down aspect when it comes to coaching. I like guys like, John Harbaugh, who was a special teams coordinator, but he is the head coach, doesn't call plays. However, it's his program that is instilled in that building. And so, but if you're going to do the route where you have to focus on calling plays, then you definitely need a guy like Dennis Allen on the other side, which is, also really good. And I was saying this last year a lot, who's to say another coach can't come in here and get the same thing that Matt Eberflus is out of this defense? We all, we're saying, we're crediting him, but at the end of the day, it's the talent on the field that's doing it. And I think a lot of coaches in this league could put this defense in a position where they could be a good defense. Now, to the running backs.
Let me interject.
Okay.
I do feel like Matt Eberflus is a top 16 coordinator, defensive coordinator in the NFL, right?
Sure.
He's in the top half. But thankfully for Bears fans, so is Dennis Allen, in my opinion.
Yes, exactly. And so, what's going to take you from the top half to the top 10 or the top 5 is then the talent. You know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, you weren't a defensive coordinator here. You were a head coach here. So you got a lot more on your plate than just calling a defense. And that's why if you want to split this thing in two and go this route, great. But then you better get a guy on defense that's, very experienced. And Dennis Allen definitely is very, very experienced.
And I think if I have some time tomorrow or later tonight, if I can't sleep, I believe that the Lions played the Saints either this year or last year. Because I remember Dennis Allen having comments about how, oh, when I played Ben Johnson, this and this happened, right? So the fact that they have that crossover, I do think that it will still benefit both of them. Where Ben Johnson can talk to Dennis Allen and say, you know what? I really didn't like how Jalen Johnson just stayed on this half of the field. I need Jalen Johnson to cover Justin Jefferson this time when we go to Minnesota. Things like that, right? So I think that it's still going to impact, but it's not like Ben Johnson has to waste his time that could otherwise be put into the offense by essentially scheming up the whole defense, right?
Right. And you know what? And I'm going to move on to the running backs. I am. But if you could put Crimson's comment up there.
This latest one?
Flus wasn't very good, and he's not bad. Yeah. So, you know what? There's something to that, because if you remember this defense before Montez Sweat, they were actually terrible. And I thought Montez Sweat would come here and be, that his production would actually go down because so much more weight is on his shoulders. And instead, to my surprise, he actually happened to elevate the rest of the guys around him to all perform better. And, that just speaks on his capabilities and whatnot. But yeah, before the talent, before you had that defensive end, Flus wasn't very good. And, there's a lot of games you could point to with teams coming back late, all that stuff. And so, yeah, there's something to be said there. But I agree with you, Thy, top 16, right? And I would put him closer to 16, 15, because I think a lot of defensive coordinators in this league are capable and can get it done. And and then there's those interesting ones that do, go above and beyond. Like Brian Flores is very interesting when you watch him. But on to the running backs for the Bears. How do I feel about this running back room with Eric Bieniemy coaching it? Listen, there's a lot of improvement to the running game that needs to happen because it was very bad. It was abysmal, pretty much. And Roschon Johnson, I like the talent. He's good enough. DeAndre Swift is good enough. Yeah, I know. I hear you. I see you doing that. But listen,
you touch that nail, right? You're holding the hammer and you touch the nail, but you didn't drive it home. We talked about this. I think it was yesterday.
His goofy looking helmet. He's, Listen,
so Roschon Johnson. I think the easiest thing to do here is to compare the Lions running back room because that's where Ben Johnson just came from, right? So when I'm looking at this offense moving forward, I heard the comments from Ben Johnson that said, hey, I'm not going to run this exact scheme. I'm going to tailor it to the offense that we have, right? But don't you think his philosophy is going to kind of want to mirror what had happened in Detroit with all that success? I really think that the Bears are looking towards a Sonic and Knuckles situation until I'm proven wrong, right? So let's consider comparing David Montgomery to Roschon Johnson. Do you think that there's any comparison there? Because for me, that feels like apples to oranges to the highest degree.
It's definitely apples to oranges. David Montgomery started for 3 years. You know what I mean? And Roschon Johnson's been a backup his whole career, right? So the position those two guys are in are different. And for the position, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure you spent similar draft capital on both of them. You know what I mean? I think they were both fourth round picks.
I believe David Montgomery was like a mid to high third round pick. And Roschon Johnson was actually, I think Roschon Johnson was drafted after Tyler Scott in the fourth. I can't remember, but they were like
possibly, yes.
Back to back, those picks.
So, but this position, man, there's a lot of running backs that can get it done. And I'm a firm believer that, so even when it comes to the draft, unless you're going out there and signing the top guy, it even doesn't matter because your offensive line is not put together, right? So if you just improve,
you're not wrong.
If you just improve that, then DeAndre Swift might be definitely good enough. And you know what I mean? But regardless, you have an experienced coach there now coaching a running back room. And I think that is huge. The more experience you could plug in, the more guys that have been in situations that have won, which is also big. And listen, there are many of those. I know on BCP, they were, Shorty was making fun of Monken, right? But I'm telling you, John Harbaugh's got a good thing going there. So, like, for somebody to come from the Ravens, I actually think they're probably going to have some success somewhere else because, I don't know, they've experienced good stability and whatnot, but we saw that not work out for Patriots and Belichick for years.
The direct argument to what you just said about Todd Monken and the Ravens, right? They've got a borderline, a fringe, iconic quarterback. Like, this guy's going to be a third MVP this year, Lamar Jackson, right? Like, you could coach him up. You can say that you're calling the plays, all these things. He can say that he's the reason for the success. But Lamar Jackson is the reason why Todd Monken is relevant, in my opinion. So I don't know if that would have been the correct route. I'm very happy that the Bears instead chose to go the Ben Johnson route.
Right. Why did they change offensive coordinators to Todd Monken?
I don't even know who they had before. I don't know if it was because they weren't getting it done or they needed a change or what the case was. All I can tell you is that this is Todd Monken's third year, and in each year, Lamar Jackson has been a top flight quarterback, and I just don't know if that's because of Todd Monken.
To me, I don't know. To me, it's an example of amazing coaching because, and I hate to get into general NFL talk. I'd rather stick to Bears stuff, but I do really like thinking about this because, you know, the Ravens passed on Lamar Jackson. Everybody passed. The Ravens traded back all the way to the last pick of the draft. And when he was there the second time around, they were willing to take him and literally cater an entire offense into grooming this quarterback. And I got to tell you, man, he is the perfect prototype of what everybody's been trying to get. He is what we wanted Justin Fields to be. He is what all these mobile quarterbacks, like, if you could just get him to pass the ball, and he can pass the ball. You know what I mean? He can throw. He's got a lot of touchdowns. And so, like, I wasn't very high on Lamar until, like, I have to be high on Lamar because he just keeps producing and producing and producing and producing and producing, right? And it's gotten to a point now where I think it starts to become more on him rather than the grooming process. You know what I mean? So, like,
what do you mean be on him and him being Lamar Jackson?
Well, yeah. So it's like time to either get it done or not. Like, how many, like, what
as far as Lamar not winning the Super Bowl?
Correct, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to define your career, right? So, like
you're
how
bang
much
on.
more could a coaching staff do for you? Because I don't think that's what's failed you at time. I mean, dude, even with Mark Andrews, like, it was just kind of sad almost. Like, dude, everything was right. Like, pegged him in the chest. Guy dropped it. Whose fault is that? You know what I mean? Like, shit just happens, but it happened. So
I'm just struggling to get your argument. You're saying that essentially because of Lamar Jackson's inability to get over the hump, the proverbial hump, that Todd Monken could go somewhere and have success that could even be higher than what he's having as a coordinator?
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that Todd Monken's been in a situation that's been an example of one of the best coaching jobs I've ever witnessed. Right? So, like, over the last 3 years, what they've been able to do is what no other team was willing to do. Everybody else passed on him. Like I said, they passed on him too. They weren't willing to do it, but at last pick of the first draft, they said okay, and they literally catered that entire offense into grooming this guy. So that is an experience that to learn from, and maybe he can go somewhere else and do that. Now, you know, with Ben Johnson, it's interesting to me because he didn't necessarily develop a guy. Jared Goff was already in a Super Bowl. However, he got the absolute highest out of Jared Goff, which I never thought was even possible.
It sucks for the Lions. It sucks for the Lions. Yeah, that's where I'm going to go to, right? I don't care. There are some very well-versed Lions fans in this chat. Yes, I'm talking about you. I lost his name. I forgot his name. That said, for the well-versed Lions fans, I don't care if you think that this was a trade engineered by the general managers, whatever the case is. If Sean McVay wanted Jared Goff to win a Super Bowl, he would have kept Jared Goff. I trust Sean McVay. He traded away Jared Goff, and props to Ben Johnson and the Lions. And it sucks for the Lions because now they have a hole in their ceiling, right? There's a huge hole where the drywall is supposed to be. It is broken, shattered, and it is the exact size of Jared Goff's head because Ben Johnson busted that man through the damn ceiling. He shattered the absolute most top ability that the Lions could get. If Jared Goff not only replicate, or if he replicates, and so help me God, if he outdoes the season that he just had without Ben Johnson, I will be floored. I will be flabbergasted because I do not think that Jared Goff is the savior in any sense, and I think that all of that success is all because of Ben Johnson. And don't get me wrong, Jared Goff this year in 2024 was a fringe MVP candidate. That's how good Ben Johnson elevated that quarterback. So, not to interject, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. At the end of the day, this is a really tough division. Really tough division. Now, no, it's inflated.
0-3 in the playoffs.
I get it, okay, but come on, man. Like, consistency matters too. No, I get it. 0-3 in the playoffs says something, right? But let's not, dude, the Lions Jared Goff did implode, but let's not pretend that anybody wanted to play the Lions in the playoffs. Like, they were a legit team this year, and they had a bad game. You know what I mean?
And I feel bad that the Lions and the Vikings had to play each other in Week 18 for the number 1 seed, because the second that the Detroit Lions won that football game was the second that they lost the chance at winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
because they lost the chip on their shoulder. They said, "Wow, we get to play the Redskins and a rookie quarterback. We've got this game in the bag." And I absolutely hate the bottom feeder mentality of thinking that just because Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson held Zoom interviews, a 3-hour Zoom interview with the teams that they eventually became head coaches for, that is not a damn distraction. That's just what it is. Those guys are business, and those guys are top flight. The Lions lost. Outside of what I just said, I also think that the Lions really lost a legitimate chance at winning the Super Bowl when Aiden Hutchinson hurt himself. That is a fantastic football player, compounded with all the other injuries on the defense. That's why they lost, because they allowed too many points to be scored. Their offense still put up very good numbers. So,
yeah, my guy Prometheus, appreciate Prometheus always.
Yeah, let me run down some guys in the chat, because chat has been fantastic tonight. Minister Charles Johnson.
I can't keep up. I can't.
Yeah, the numbers that this is doing so far, you guys are fantastic. Sam H, Prometheus, Tony Moy, Broski Bear, some guy named J2K, if we know who that is, Illinois Jones, Larry T, Cliff Victoria, a.k.a. Don Burr. I thought we banned that Don Burr guy, but he's back in the chat. It's Crimson. Chad Spieger, of course. If you guys are over on the Bears Country Productions side of things as well, thank you guys so much to our members. Plank, Googly Bear, Chad Spieger, you guys know who you are. Thank you so very, very much. Yeah, you guys are just fantastic, man. Paulie, I want to wrap you back into the thought process of these running backs. But yeah, go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, I just want to close this point, though. Like, so what, I'm not saying the division wasn't tough this year and that it wasn't inflated. It was a little bit inflated, but it was like historically tough too. So I'm not expecting this thing to just turn into a pushover next year. Like, these are still 3 good teams that we're facing in this division. Now, I think the Packers think they're...
Be honest with me. Do you think that there's any chance whatsoever that there's a Week 18 game between 2 NFC North teams that determines the number 1 seed in the NFC?
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen next year necessarily, but it's the NFL, man. I've seen crazier things than that. Like, so yeah, you never know is the thing. And even, the Vikings find themselves in an interesting situation with the quarterback. Because, like, do you really upgrade with J.J. McCarthy? Or, like, what do you do? And, like, the Lions find themselves in an interesting situation coaching-wise, losing all these coaches. And the Packers, I think, thought they were better than they actually are, but they are very young, so I think their arrows still can keep pointing up. But
they're like 2 years away from being one of the oldest rosters of the NFL too. So I don't like that argument. As far as
okay,
the
that's fair.
Packers' record, they are so lucky that they had a 10-win season, went to the playoffs, and they get to play the third string of teams in the divisions. Right, like just because of their strength of schedule, I do think that the Packers will be in the playoffs again next year.
That's fair. But I do think what we've done here is definitely gone all in on trying to just maximize Caleb. And so, like at the end of the day, it's not my preferred path, but I understand the path, and at least it's clear cut, and at least they're doing it right. Like I said, at least they're getting experienced coaches on the other side of the football. At least they're getting experienced coaches all the way down to positional coaches. Like this is Eric Bieniemy is way overqualified to be a running backs coach, but
Fact.
it's one of the things that J2K was arguing on when he was with us, that it's not just about Ben Johnson, it's about Ben Johnson and who he brings with him. And I was more worried about the fact that, like, okay, well, the Lions are going to want to keep their guys. You're not going to be able to steal some guys. And then when Randall L came over, it's like, well, you just stole a guy. You know what I mean? So, and this has attracted way more interest from legitimate coaches than I thought it would, which maybe speaks volumes to the potential of what we might see here from the Bears offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Redskins beat the Lions, and 48 hours after that, Ben Johnson was the head coach of the Chicago Bears. I don't think that that's possible without Caleb Williams, right? So to Chad Speaker's point, Caleb Williams is better than Jordan Love. I would not say that it's wrong to feel that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the NFC North, but I don't think you can definitively say that until we see a productive season out of him this upcoming year, right? On paper, what it is right now at face value, it's fine. You could say he's the worst, right? But I do think that he's better than guys like Sam Darnold, who really overachieved because of their great head coach. I think that, again, I've already made my point regarding Jared Goff, right? I think that Caleb Williams, I think it's undeniable that his potential is far and away better than Jared Goff. I think it's better than Jordan Love, definitely. And then J.J. McCarthy, who I like, apples to oranges there as well, right? Caleb Williams is the Heisman winner. J.J. McCarthy from my University of Michigan only had to throw the ball 10 times a game to win a national champion. Jokes aside, though, I'm so excited about this coaching staff, it's not even funny. I mean, I did not expect this in any sense. My favorite hire of all of them, maybe outside of Dennis Allen, because he's fantastic, if I'm being honest, but I adore Antoine Randall L. I think that the things that we saw from Antoine Randall L as a player, being a former quarterback, I don't know if it was in college or not, but obviously he became a wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers and had oodles and oodles of highlights of him throwing the ball for touchdowns, right? I think that that's going to be an indicator of these trick plays, not just Ben Johnson. A lot of people like to crap on Ben Johnson, saying, oh, why are you having Jameson Williams throw a meaningful pass in a playoff game? Well, I think that it's hand in hand with Antoine Randall L. And I think that's why Antoine Randall L left, to be this assistant head coach. And I don't know his other title. He's the wide receivers coach. He has to be. So
Assistant coach as well, I believe.
That's first and foremost the assistant head coach. So that's a guy that Ben Johnson definitely trusts, and I do think that he's going to be just a very useful coach for the Chicago Bears. And again, to kind of full circle my point from earlier, you're having this perfect mirroring of young, hungry, exciting, up-and-coming coaches that are, former players or just bright young minds in the sense of Declan Doyle. But then you've also got this awesome experience that you're adding with a former head coach and defensive coordinator with Dennis Allen. So I need to clear this up. Eric Bieniemy, he was never a head coach for the Redskins, but he was definitely their offensive coordinator. And I thought that they called that a half-and-half situation.
So I believe they did, and I mean, it
Let me
didn't
see if I can
end
find
well
that.
for him. But the thing about Bieniemy too is, well, you're in an offensive coordinator position under Andy Reid. So was Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy got the head coaching job. Eric Bieniemy never did because he didn't interview well, at least from what I've heard. And finally, he got the opportunity in Washington to go and do it. And then he went to college, right? And regardless,
he got fired too. I need to find that, but he got fired recently, and I can't remember where he got fired from, if it was from UCLA or not. But he's something is not in the cards with Eric Bieniemy as a head coach, because that lineage from the Chiefs, right? If Matt Nagy can be a head coach, and he downright won the Coach of the Year for the Bears in 2018, right, as a rookie, I think that Eric Bieniemy should have been a head coach. But there's just something wrong there. Whether that's the interview process or something else, I just don't know what it is. I think that his height as far as a title was co-head coach with the Redskins when Ron Rivera was there, because Riverboat Ron was kind of on his way out of the door, but he had control of the roster and the defense. So they brought on Eric Bieniemy as kind of like a co-head coach to be on the offense. That's the highest thing that I remember Eric Bieniemy kind of having.
And I'm not going to sit here and dance around it. I mean, we're two white guys talking here. The NFL has not had a good history with the rate of African-American coaches that are hired.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that they're not good coaches by any means. It's
let's knock that out. I mean, so the Rooney rule is in place.
It has to be, dude.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, whether he didn't interview well, whether the NFL's still racist at the ownership level or whatever the hell it is, or anything like that, it just didn't work out for him. But he was on the Chiefs. Hold on, I damn it.
No, that's Polish. That's Polish, Sam.
When I went to Poland, my uncle was behind the bar, and this was before the war, by the way. And he's like, I don't like Ukrainian people. He's like, when Ukrainian people come to the bar and try and order a drink and Ukraine whatever, he's like, I just ignore them. Or when I hear their accent, I'm just like, man, it's not even about skin color. It's about accent. Hate is just hate. We all just hate our neighbors, man. We all hate the Packers. We just hate the people.
I fucking hate the Packers, Paul. I fucking
a little bit
hate
far away,
the Packers.
It's just funny to me. But regardless, Eric Bieniemy comes from a situation where, dude, he was part of a lot of success. He knows exactly what that looks like, how it gets done. He was on the Chiefs for a long time. And so, dude, for the position he's in, for running backs coach, I can't think of a more qualified running backs coach than we've ever had, which leads back to J2K's comments
in the NFL.
Beginning. Yeah, I can't remember this kind of experienced staff being put together. I mean, I guess it kind of
Eric Bieniemy won the Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. That's how much experience we're talking about here.
Right. But I mean, he wasn't play calling.
Well, I still think that title holds weight in the sense that it was implementing. Yeah. No, that's what I'm trying to say, man. This is a slam dunk hire, and I need to find some background on him, because I believe someone in chat had mentioned that he literally is a former running back. It feels like...
Wasn't our running back coach last year the guy that got fired by HR? For sure.
Oh, no, dude. Our running backs coach, there were two of them. I can't remember either of their names, but they were on Hard Knocks, and I adored them because I was very invested into the Ian Wheeler story, and the way that they treated and coached Ian Wheeler made me want to put on a fucking football helmet. I love those coaches that we got rid of, so I have no problems with them, but this is a very clear-cut upgrade as far as Eric Bieniemy.
I will refute that. Here we go. David Walker on November 1st, 2023 was fired due to his workplace behavior. The decision was made by head coach Matt Eberflus and general Ryan Poles.
That was after Hard Knocks.
Right. So last year we had a running backs coach that got fired. There were two, like you said, two of them.
Oh, November 2023?
November 1st, 2023. So 2 years ago. My bad.
Okay, so the new coaches that I had the comments on Hard Knocks are valid.
Okay, sure. I'm just saying it hasn't been a good rap record here, rap sheet here, history of good coaches in here.
Talk about the Eberflus, Alan Williams situation. Absolutely, man.
So I don't want to get into that, but no, Bieniemy, Karl, I want you to take a picture. No. So
guys, I'm gonna turn off my camera while I'm going to tweet at Courtney Cronin. I will be right back.
Oh God, I triggered him. Why did
I'm done.
So yeah, Bieniemy for the position that he's in is definitely way overqualified. It's such a big plus, and everything seems to be like falling into place. And yeah, Larry, maybe I believe so, but like same thing. Like I believe women can be good coaches, no
She
problem.
was fantastic.
Yeah, so whatever. Randall L though, that yeah, I'm glad you put this up because I want to get back to Randall L too. Did you see the St. Brown podcast by chance? So,
I saw with Caleb Williams. I don't know which you're referring to.
so Amon Ra, St. Brown said that he's got a group chat with all the wide receivers on the Lions and Randall L. Right? So he's like, he's from Chicago. It would make sense. I know he's, available this year, whatever. So he's like randomly just in the group chat. He's like, I put, Coach, are you going to Chicago? You leaving us? And he's like, and then like 30 seconds later, he's like, I got a phone call. And it's Antoine Randall L. And he's like, hey, he's like, did that info leak? And Amon Ra's like, no, man, I'm just fucking with you. And he's like, oh. He's like, well, yeah, I am going to be taking a job in Chicago. And so you could tell it hurt him, man. And, that's good. In comparison, when we got Shane Waldron last year, Jackson Smith and Jigbo is like, good luck with that guy. Like that's
the first thing that JSN asked, because this is on CHGO, the first thing when he was asked about Shane Waldron, he said, is this live? And we tried to ignore it. We tried our best to ignore it, but
we're like, he's mad because he was a rookie third string. No, man, he was just like, really? Like you guys really asking me this? And so it's just, dude, so far there have been none of these red flags. Like with Matt Nagy, my red flag was the most important thing is to have fun. And I was just like, oh my God, no. Like and he said that early on, and then we saw Club Dub, and that all sat very wrong with me because like you have fun in Pee-wee football, like get that shit out of your system. Like sure, go ahead, enjoy it, celebrate, but like it's business until you get the job done. And man, that type of culture, it's hard to set. I'll always go back to there was an Eagles player that was talking about the time they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And he's like 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, all the media attention, we're all hyped, we're all loving the interviews, you know what I mean? And he's like, and I remember watching the Patriots get off the plane, and they're just business as usual. Been there, done that, job's not finished. And so, like, yeah, those were my red flags. I just don't have any red flags right now, Karl. And I'm not a guy to get hyped very easily. I do typically want, proof first before I'm going to sit there and kind of do it. But I got to admit, even me, like, this looks good. Looks really good.
And you can see above my head, today is February 2nd, 2025, okay? A couple weeks into the season, or, when the season is done, whatever the case is, somewhere in between then, someone on the Chicago Bears is going to receive some sort of end-around trick play and throw a football and throw an interception, and we're going to get pissed off. That's just what it is, right? But I feel like with Ben Johnson, it was always kind of he has the highest ceiling as a head coaching candidate, right? And by that, I think that you're going to have a little bit of live by the sword, die by the sword. You're going to have, maybe it is Roschon Johnson, my ideal position for Roschon Johnson, converted fullback. Maybe he takes what appears to be a fullback dive and then throws a jump pass, and that's completed in the back of the end zone to Cole Kmet for a touchdown. If I nail that on the head, I'm going to fucking freak out. But if you can have that success, if he throws someone throws a bad ball, someone gets tackled and it's a fumble, who cares, man? The offense for the Lions for the last 2.5, 3 years has been fucking phenomenal. And if we can even just get a taste of that with a quarterback who has some real fucking talent, we're talking about a real potential offensive juggernaut if everything goes well, right? And I agree with you. I think you said it perfectly. As far as the coaching staff, even with Bieniemy involved, there are no obvious red flags. I will put this up on the screen because someone took the time to write this out.
And so just with an offensive-minded head coach as well, there's always a benefit to, not getting plucked off the team you're at. Like, that's the good thing about Dennis Allen is he's already had
the brain trust between head coach. The brain trust between head coach / offensive play caller by trade is going to be ideally married to Caleb Williams for Caleb Williams' career. I don't know if I'm comfortable saying that Ben Johnson will be a great head coach for the Bears above and beyond the playing time of Caleb Williams, because I expect Caleb Williams, if all goes well, to play for 15 years. That's a long fucking time to be a head coach somewhere. But that's the idea here, is you're investing in Caleb Williams. You're not saying, okay, we like you, we're going to get the best offensive coordinator, and then they get plucked 2 years ago, or 2 years later, right? It'd be like a Ben Johnson situation where Ben Johnson was the clear apple of the eye in the last cycle, in my opinion, but he turned it down because he thought he had unfinished business. And the fact of the matter is that Ben Johnson really took his time and became a good head coach in the sense that he developed a staff properly. He didn't just take the job for the money and then be like, okay, who wants to join me? Who wants to join me? No, it was essentially leaked. Dennis Allen corroborated the story that in like November, after Dennis Allen had gotten fired, Ben Johnson's like, hey, buddy, what are you doing this offseason? What do you want to do? You want to be my DC? And he said, yeah, let's fucking do it. So that's I think the Bears got lucky in the sense that Ben Johnson easily could have been a head coach last year, and he took the time to do it right. So maybe, just maybe, things are actually falling their way.
Yes. And
last point regarding the red flags for the staff. Press Taylor is the offensive passing game coordinator. And while that's true, I'm not a fan of that move because I do not think anything of Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's a good player. So if we're taking the Jaguars, anything, I think he was their offensive coordinator. He's getting demoted. That's fine, but that doesn't inspire me whatsoever. And it's not necessarily a red flag, but that's the only issue I think that I could say regarding the staff.
Yeah, and you can also look at Doyle and say he's young and inexperienced, and he's.
But here's the thing with Doyle. He has no responsibilities beyond football. He's young. He's younger than me.
Yes.
So this guy is going to be up at 2 a.m. instead of watching BearskiFilm highlight videos. He's going to be grinding tape, and maybe that is his footage. I don't know. I kind of hope not. No offense to you and your channel, but we need these guys to invest that time because Ben Johnson can no longer do that.
My channel provides quality content, Karl.
And that's a fucking fact. That's a fucking fact. If you guys are not subscribed to BearskiFilm on YouTube and you're not following over on the Facebook side of things, what are you guys doing? Good time for me to mention, we're simulcasting over on BearskiFilm, the Thy&Smi podcast, and Bears Country Productions. If you guys are not following, subscribe to either of those channels, please consider subscribing to any that you are not. And we appreciate that.
Definitely appreciate BCP for letting us broadcast their channel as well.
Dan is the man.
And Thy&Smi, dude, I absolutely appreciate all the content you put out when you do. And so, yeah, for anybody who's watching on my channel, hop over to Karl's and give him a like and subscribe for sure. So, dude, that is the one thing that, like, I'll give it to J2K, right? And it's not backpedaling. It's, like I said, I have a preference with my ideology and whatnot. I will give you one thing. I don't think Mike Vrabel would have put as good of a staff together.
And he hasn't.
Which I don't think I would have said that a month ago. So to me, it's surprising, but it's very good. It's very positive. And so
while I may rather have Mike Vrabel as the head coach versus Ben Johnson for kind of a higher ceiling, I think that Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator officially for the New England Patriots, I hate him. He is terrible in every sense, in my opinion. I think that his career, anything as far as the goods, footballing from Josh McDaniels is all a testament to Tom Brady, right? So if he was the guy in charge of Caleb Williams, I would be nervous as all hell.
Yes, and it would be a certain kind of a gamble, but at the end of the day, dude, sometimes guys are bad head coaches. Josh McDaniels has a decent offensive coordinator resume, whether that's all due to Tom Brady or not. Okay, sure. But we're coming from a situation where we took Aaron Rodgers' quarterback coach and made him our offensive coordinator with Luke Getsy. Okay, so the comparison here, like I get Doyle's up and coming and whatnot. I just, I think it's always funny because it's like when you look back at things after they fail, you're like, oh, well, that was obvious. Like that was obvious that that didn't work out. This is an interesting way to do things where it's like, if it doesn't work out, okay, I get it, but they're taking a real good shot here. And I listen, I understand what they're doing, and at least they're sticking to a plan. They're going all in on Caleb Williams. They even gambled at pick 9 and took Roma Dunze to pair up with him for the next 4 or 5 years. Like they are literally pushing all their chips in on Caleb Williams. Like, let's get this line right. Let's help him out. But like, you are going to try your very best to maximize this generational quarterback's ceiling that you can. And okay, I'll respect it. I'll respect that path because dude, Caleb does have a high ceiling, but like, dude, if Ben Johnson can get it out of him, we're going to see some really good football, like really good football from the offense. And that's exciting. Or it'll go really south. You know what I mean? And that's the other part of it that's kind of scary to me. But the more this is going on, the more they're reassuring things, the more they're putting experience even in, positional coach roles. And like I said, it seems like it's not going to go south. So I think the floor for my expectations has actually risen a lot in these last 2 weeks. And yeah, like I said, it's hard to get me going a little bit, but I'm going a little bit. Okay. I'm buying in. I'm buying in a little.
I think that means something because over on the BearskiFilm side of things, you guys are definitely more. I don't want to say negative because it feels like a bad thing to say, right? But
I'm trying to be
you're a
realistic.
lot more cautious and realistic. I like those terms for you guys. So I'm happy to hear that it's instilling some confidence because I too I'm sharing that confidence. Let me give you guys a little verbal rundown of Eric Bieniemy, and then once I recap that off, Paulie, I want you to compose your thoughts while I'm talking. Tell me what you think about this running back room. But let me guys give you a rundown for Eric Bieniemy, all right? Some of you guys were mentioning how good of a player he was. I definitely don't remember him because he played literally before I was born. But he actually was drafted pick 38 overall in the second round. Seems that he was drafted to the San Diego Chargers. Wikipedia is telling me he played for the Chargers between 91 and 94, then on the Bengals from 95 to 98, and then his last season of his career was on the Philadelphia Eagles in 1999. Again, as a running back. So as a coach, he spent some time with Thomas Jefferson High School in Colorado, then was the running backs coach at the University of Colorado, was the running backs coach at UCLA from 03 to 04. In 05, he was the running backs coach and recruiting coordinator, and then he broke through into the NFL in 2006. Now, Paulie, this is noteworthy because I heard that Eric Bieniemy had crossover with our president of football operations being Kevin Warren, right? So in Minnesota, Eric Bieniemy was the running backs coach from 2006 to 2009, and then was actually elevated to assistant head coach and running backs coach in 2010. Then in 2011 and 2012, Eric Bieniemy returned to Colorado as the offensive coordinator, and then in 2013 started his long stint with the Chiefs. He was the running backs coach on the Chiefs from 2013 to 2017, and then became the offensive coordinator outright in 2018 all the way up until 2022. And then in 2023, Mr.
Because
Eric
Matt
Bieniemy,
Nagy left.
correct,
So
correct, he finally got his chance, right? It was good enough to land Eric Bieniemy a 1-year stint with the Washington Commanders as the assistant head coach and offensive coordinator. So it wasn't a co-head coaching situation like I had thought, but it did stick out to me that I do remember him having the assistant head coach title. So call it the highest ranking offensive coordinator in the NFL. That has been the peak for Eric Washington as a coach, right? Then he returned to UCLA in 2024 as the assistant head coach and offensive coordinator, and I believe he got fired. I'm almost certain that he was fired from UCLA, right? So this is a guy, to just really drive home what you said, Paulie, this is probably the most capable, I can't think of the word, it's not coming to me, overqualified running backs coach in the NFL. But as far as the running back room, what do you think about the talent that we have now versus what you would like to see or expect from the room moving forward?
So I do think DeAndre Swift is still a very capable running back, especially for the contract that he's on. We got him for one more year, right?
I don't want to cut you off. You are right. I just want to tell you that I feel that DeAndre Swift is definitely not worth just kicking to the can because he's marginally not good enough, right? He's making money. He's got to have to earn that money this year as a member of the Chicago Bears in some capacity.
Well, it's interesting because I saw a comment. I forgot, maybe it was even on BCP where somebody was like, "Does Saquon?" Oh no, it was on NFL Ski when you guys were talking. That's what it was. They're like, "Does Saquon sit there and demand more money?" When you make that point, Karl? Did you maybe make it? Does he sit there and try
For
and?
devil's advocate,
Yeah. Okay, no, that's
I
fair. Listen,
suggested that if Saquon Barkley won the Super Bowl, does he go the
that's
Le'Veon Bell
fair.
route?
That's fair, and that's an option. It didn't work out for Le'Veon Bell, and the NFL was much
Not
more
at all.
dependent. No, terrible. And the NFL was much more dependent on running backs than it is now. And so he can try. It's not going to do anything because the arrow's been pointing the other way. But I think it's finding a happy medium where like these guys are getting paid enough, but the expectations also have changed. You need a couple. It's not just all on you. Like there's very few guys out there like Derrick Henry left and Saquon Barkley left. Like it feels like what the Lions actually had going on with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Like David Montgomery's a capable back, and he was for a couple of years. And so him being in a running back 2 role is very comfortable for a guy who's had some injury concerns and this and that. They only get older.
I just want to bring to light, once David Montgomery went down with his knee injury, we saw Jahmyr Gibbs have a meteoric rise, in my opinion, if he could do that. I think that when Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs was asked to be the starting and the lead back for the Detroit Lions, he cemented himself as being the 3rd best running back in the entire NFL. That's how good Jahmyr Gibbs is.
And that's fair, and he's very young still. And he's totally capable of taking on the lead role. But for how long? At some point you give out, and that point seems to be very close to second contract time. And so there's got to be this balance here of like, thank you so much, Bob Sweet. We appreciate all the time you spent watching.
Yeah, but Bob, I'm going to say this to Bob, but I mean this for everyone. I cannot express how much I appreciate your time. Don't feel like you have to, even subscribe or like, or definitely don't donate, anything like that. Just you spending your time in here means the world to me. I know it means the world to Paulie. So thank you very, very much.
Definitely. All you guys, everybody in chat, everybody who's watching, participating.
Correct. Even the great Chris
chat
Foster.
Is blowing up so much that I can't even keep up.
Yeah, Chris Foster's on a generational run. I just need to point this out. He's had a couple good things that I put on the screen. So bravo to you, Chris Foster. You're turning a leaf here.
As long as he's not racist or homophobic or whatever, like I told him, you make some good points. Just sometimes how you make them comes off a little on the edge.
Clean it up. Chris Foster's off the cocaine.
I'll totally put up with you because you do make some good points for sure. And so, like, dude, I think the NFL's kind of figured it out a little bit too. Where like we saw the Ezekiel Elliott situation in Dallas, where it's like, okay, you drafted him so high, pick 4, right? Now it's contract time. You have really no choice but to sign him because he has produced behind a great offensive line. Doesn't matter. He has produced. And then you sign him and he goes to shit and he's not worth his money. And now what? You have his backup at one point. I forgot what the backup's name was. But you had his backup.
DeMarco Murray? Something like that?
No. There was another guy.
Marion Barber? That was too early.
Not Marion Barber. No, there was Tony Pollard.
There you go.
Yeah, you have Tony Pollard behind you at some point, like outplaying you, getting paid so much less because you're hurt and you're old and like so there's a fine balance. Like what Saquon's doing right now is a little bit of an anomaly. He's not a great back. He's an excellent back. And so like
which player?
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Let me make this point.
He's an excellent back, man. Like he really is. And he's had his injury concerns too and whatnot. But like his production this year is awesome and it's great. It shouldn't dictate the trends of the NFL when it comes to running backs and how much they're getting paid and everything like that? No, because he's not going to keep doing this. Like, this league's just too tough on those guys at this point. So, hey, thanks teams.
Yeah, Team
No,
Scare,
that's
I believe.
on Thigh. That's on your channel, right?
I'm not too sure. All I can tell you is that Team Scare, you're using an alternate account. I think you're Jeremy Munoz. We appreciate you, again, creating a good community of people. The people in here are what make the show. Each and every one of you listening to our voices right now, you guys are fantastic, and you guys are what makes the show go around. Again, could not say thank you enough.
So there's plenty of use for DeAndre Swift in this offense, right? He's currently in a lead role. He's getting paid to do that. You still draft the running back though this year, right? Late round, like.
Well, that's going
right?
to be that's going to be our debate. I think it would be asinine to not add talent to the running back room because I think that the running back room is devoid of talent. I think that they need to add a lead bell cow running back, and we'll talk about that. It is very obvious what my thoughts are on this, Mr. O'Meara Hampton. But regarding DeAndre Swift, so let me just ask you let me ask you a cut and dry question. Are you comfortable running the running back room back with DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, and either
one more year,
a low quality, essentially, let's call it Khalil Herbert.
Sixth round draft pick. Yep, exactly. Khalil Herbert.
No. I'm not even talking about a 6th round pick because
that's what
I'm sure
Khalil Herbert was.
Right, but you could spin that into saying that they're could be a very talented player because it's a deep draft, whatever the case is, right? I hear that argument.
They're a dime a dozen, like, dude. Like,
no. I don't think that they are, and here's my point regarding that. Right, DeAndre Swift on the Detroit Lions. Ben Johnson utilized DeAndre Swift on the Detroit Lions and got almost 1,000 yards all-purpose out of him. Right, what did they do? And I need to clarify this as well because the exact steps were A, draft Jahmyr Gibbs first, and then trade DeAndre Swift away to the Eagles. And what happened to the Detroit Lions running attack? It got exponentially better, albeit because they also signed David Montgomery. Then DeAndre Swift played on the Philadelphia Eagles with a much better offensive line than the Eagles have now, by the way. Only mustered up 1,000 yards, and I know for a fact that the Eagles didn't go to the Super Bowl that year. What happened when they added Saquon Barkley? They got significantly worse at center. They dealt with some injuries, I believe, as well. So overall, I'd say that the Eagles' offensive line this year is genuinely a lot worse than last year, depending on how you feel about the Hall of Famer Jason Kelce, right? Then Saquon Barkley doubles the production of DeAndre Swift, and now the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. All I'm trying to say is that you can't just get by with a bad running back. And before you say Isaiah Pacheco, go ahead.
Even with Derrick Henry, the Ravens still weren't able to win, but like they still got there.
And that's because we talked about how their quarterback just doesn't have it in him. They were averaging 7 yards a run. That is historically good.
Who was Joe Burrow's quarterback when they won?
Running back?
Yeah, when they won.
Apparently the great Joe Mixon, who I believe also hits women, by the way. But Joe Mixon is a very good running back in his day.
It was a first-round pick, right?
I have no idea. I don't think so.
It might be. No, okay, all right. Like, dude, my biggest issue with this is like, and I try and go back to like recent stats, right? So, first round running backs, just in the last 25 years, right?
You're gonna talk to a brick wall here.
I hear you. I go back to Adrian Peterson, who was amazing and did work out, and he still doesn't have a damn Super Bowl ring, right? So there's like an issue with this situation where like when you make that kind of move, you have to be in a very specific situation to be able to do that. I think the Lions were, and they tried to maximize their window. But like you do have to gamble and go all in because like, dude, it's rough when you take a look at the history of things. Like it really is. Breece Hall, Jesus. Okay, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the interesting one because they drafted him 32nd overall, but they wound up winning it with Pacheco. Josh Jacobs.
I hate that argument because let's say Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl a week from tomorrow. He's got a three-peat on his resume, and then just over the rest of his career, if Patrick Mahomes musters one MVP in the regular season and one more Super Bowl, let's say in like 10 years after that, I legitimately think that he's better than Tom Brady. So, like, Patrick Mahomes is the reason why they're winning, regardless of anything else.
Right. Andy Reid, 20 years, great head coach in the league. Couldn't win it until Patrick Mahomes was there. So, like, at the end of the day...
And Chris Foster has you so down bad right here, too, because Marino never won a Super Bowl, and Dan Marino's iconic.
Correct. He is. And so, yes, but that's an oddball example, right? So that's what I'm saying. That's an anomaly. Saquon Barkley's an anomaly. Like, you don't
but is he?
Guys, yeah.
We've got 3 first-round pick running backs in the NFL, the top 3 that are essentially leading their offenses to the highest of highs. Like Saquon Barkley on the Eagles, Derrick Henry on the Ravens. And these guys are like, they're defying the trend, right? Because it's always been draft a running back, get your 4 years out of them, recycle. Well, these guys are going to new teams, and they're elevating their teams. I haven't seen this recently. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, jury's out. But my point here is that you have to add a talented running back to this room because that's going to transform your offense. And if Jahmyr Gibbs can assist on the offense that had Jared Goff scraping towards an MVP off the ceiling, the top of his ceiling for his talent level, imagine just a half-average running back with Caleb Williams.
Oh, okay, so like I asked this to David because me and David were having this discussion, right? First of all, Saquon and Derrick Henry are both on their second teams. So when it comes to drafting the running back, it doesn't work out for the team that drafts them. If you want to talk about spending max money in free agency on one of these guys, that's a little bit different of a conversation, especially since that total number has reached a more realistic point. Like Saquon isn't that much more expensive than DeAndre Swift now. They used to be, not anymore. So that's a little bit easier to pull off. However, I asked David this before the playoff game. Who would you have rather gotten injured, Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson?
Definitely, you'd rather have Derrick Henry be injured. But it's a little bit of circumstance because I think Justice Hill is a very good running back. But in a vacuum, you'd rather have the MVP quarterback than the MVP running back.
What about
say Philadelphia
or Jalen Hurts?
I think that Jalen Hurts sucks.
Okay, so that's why.
And Jalen Hurts. It's ironic because Jalen Hurts was hurt. His knee was kind of fucked up. He was forced to take shotgun snaps against the team that they beat before the Redskins, the Rams.
Okay.
So
and then the 49ers traded away what for Christian McCaffrey? Like, dude, they
acquired Christian McCaffrey and they rode him into the ground, tore his Achilles,
and
took him to the Super Bowl.
Edge, because at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes with a 7th round running back is whooping your ass, getting Super Bowls left and right. So you're trying to get like over the top, and I get that move. I get adding talent, like really good talent,
and it's another anomaly with the Chiefs because I do think that Isaiah Pacheco is a fine running back for what he is, right? But we're talking about Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith arguably being the best in the entire NFL at their positions. That's the all-pro interior offensive line right there, and they're all together on the Chiefs.
Yes. And so what I'm saying is, like, that's great. You need to be in position to do that, though. There's other things that come first. What comes first? Offensive line. Dude, like, we need to get Cole Kmet right. That needs to, like, that production needs to increase drastically, in my opinion. Before I'm worried about,
I think you can thank Shane Waldron for that.
Probably, but, like, I would love to see that actually increase. And, like, you can get it done with a lot of different running backs. Like on my list of to-dos and worry abouts, that tends to fall pretty low. So like for this next year, you asked me if Swift, Roschon Johnson, and then like a 6th round draft pick running back good enough, or even go out in free agency and sign somebody that, whatever. But like, in my opinion, that with all the other talent around, that should be good enough, especially if you get this whole line right. Like, you should be able to work with that at least. Is it top premier in the league? Is it Saquon Barkley? No. But, like, I, I, I don't know how much better Saquon would have done here because how much the offensive line sucks. So, like, we
And
got to get some other shit right, dude.
that's not wrong, because even in the state that the Eagles' offensive line is, being much worse than the year before when they had DeAndre Swift on their football team, the Eagles still have very clearly a top 5 offensive line. So I think I asked the question to David with Saquon and the Eagles' offensive line: is there a chicken or the egg situation? No, they're both good independently, and this marriage between them is why they're in the Super Bowl, right? But my point is that I think that I don't want it to get lost in translation what DeAndre Swift started the season with. And that could very well be because of scheme, bad offensive line, whatever the case is. But I, at times this year, saw just a downright bad running back with DeAndre Swift. Like, he was shit. So if he can be relegated into a role where he's not counted on per se, and he can be the optimal and play to his strength, being this third down, scat back, change of pace, I would much prefer that, and he's going to still get his money's worth. And it doesn't have to be like an only some of the time situation. Like, let's just copy what the Lions did and go 50-50, right? Let's have, in my opinion, this running back that we need to draft, and we can debate on when and where, but let's say we get a top-flight running back who's your bell cow starter. He's your David Montgomery. Only give him 15 carries, 12 carries a game, and just mirror that then to DeAndre Swift. I don't want you to just relegate him and say he's not going to get any touches and he's just going to get paid to ride the bench. No, let's go 50-50, man.
But you said two different things.
Go ahead.
You said Jahmyr Gibbs, which is a first-round pick that they traded up for, and then you said via David Montgomery, which is a third-round pick. So, like, am I comfortable spending a third-round pick on a running back to sit here and like, I don't know if a rookie third-round pick maybe takes the role, but, like, whatever, even split, sure, I'd be open to that idea. But, like, in my mind, we are not in position to draft a first-round running back.
And I agree with you. I don't want anyone to get that twisted, because I will joke, and you've seen the thumbnail for this video, Ashton Genty in a Bears jersey, right?
But
I think that would be a luxury pick, and it would be stupid.
I'll go devil's advocate, though. Put the Scrolls comment up. Not this last one, but the one before it. The one before this one. Yes. Don't overcorrect and overdraft a lineman when a franchise changer is available. So, like, as much as I personally don't, like, I do try and balance team need versus best player. I don't just, like, sway all towards team need or sway all towards best player. I was doing these Bears therapy shorts where I was asking people to come on and just, relive, like, your worst Bears memory. And when Aldo Gandia from the Barroom Network, when he came on, the story he told me was all we needed was a defensive tackle. And, like, the Giants were in the draft, and they were the ones that would have drafted Aaron Donald. And they're a couple picks before us, and they drafted a wide receiver or something. And he's like, and that's it. Like, Aaron Donald's going to fall to us. And he's like, the pick right before us is the Rams. They had 2 good defensive tackles, and they drafted Aaron Donald. And he's like, the rest is fucking history. So there are plenty of examples of where just best player available works out, even when you don't need them. So I get that argument. I totally do.
Like Roma Dunze?
Listen, and I use that same example and same story for that, Karl. Like, it's not my preference. It's not. We don't know how things are going to work out. Could it work out? Yes, it totally could. It's just not the way I would personally do things or want it to go. But, I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to work. Like, those are two different things. Like, and so, yeah, I don't like the idea of drafting a first-round running back because of the position we're in. I just think there's so many other holes, and I think you could still increase production in that running back room with a running back. I know you said a second-round pick for that guy.
Yeah,
man,
let me show you something that's
like I might want to trade back, man, a little bit, because, like, we talk
trade
about
back from your first-round pick.
Yeah, because we talk about some of the left tackles this year, and I've heard a lot of conversation where it's like, okay, none of these guys are, like, truly premier for sure top tackles.
J2K,
And I know
earmuffs.
J2K, yeah, I know J2K will probably disagree, but like from what I've heard, it's like there's still questions about him. So, at worst, maybe you have to move them inside and they become good guards, but that's different than getting a top
Who?
notch for sure premier tackle. So like if you
Hold on,
can't
hold on,
find
hold on. You're talking about saying draft an O lineman at 10th overall who's like the best, and even though they played tackle in college, you're saying they should be forced into guard at that point?
no, I'm saying that if they don't like the analysis that I heard on him at least was like, hey, even you know, they're still good linemen. Like they might not be great tackles, but maybe they'll make good guards. The reason why these guys want to come out as tackles too is like because tackles make more money, right? Like
That's fact.
Tevin Jenkins came out as a tackle. Right away, they're like, no, kid, you're gonna
Well,
be a
he
guard.
played right tackle in
Yeah,
college, and
right away they're like, you're
that
gonna be a guard. Like so
actually, Ryan Pace identified him as being their left tackle just because of his trade switch. That was wrong, but
right, regardless, it is a financial thing too. But like when it comes to just the talent, like Joe Alt was definitely a good left tackle. You know what I mean? Like
well,
I don't
he plays right tackle, but he had the generational label, and for good reason.
so yeah, I heard
And
that there
that
isn't
is not
necessarily
in this draft.
that out there, and I heard that the defensive line, prospects are pretty plentiful. So
Well,
like
let me educate you. At the top of this draft, you're going to see probably in the top 5 picks, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of these names is the first overall pick in this draft. Mason Graham out of Michigan is literally Aaron Donald. Abdul Carter is ironically, as well as his former number 11 team, or not teammate, but the player who formerly wore number 11 for Penn State. Abdul Carter is Micah Parsons. So you've got some high top end talent that the Bears will never even get a chance to sniff. Outside of that,
and
though, it's kind of a little bit of I'll say a jag fest, just another guy, but I'm sure
right,
there's some
and
edge talent and things like that.
so at that point, it's like, man, you still need a guard really bad. In my opinion, you need a center really bad for the future to grow with Caleb, dude. It might. Once again, I'm enticed, dude. I look at the draft always as such a shit show. Like so, like the top 10 picks. When you spend one of those, you got to be as close to positive as you could be that thing's gonna work out. That's why you spend that pick. And otherwise, trade back. Like get more picks. Like get more shots at the dartboard because, dude, you trade back, you could totally still, pick up a center and a running back in round 2 like you'd like. You could trade back, get a defensive lineman, take a
Well,
center, take a
now
running
that
back.
you're
Like
saying
that
that,
becomes an option if
well,
you go that route. If
look at
things
Cliff Victoria's comment, because he says that Dallas is at 12 and they're taking Genty. That's debatable, but I'm leaning towards that. He also does
probably get a
say that
third round pick.
which team would be willing enough to come up to 10. Just maybe because I made this unofficial bet with Adam Mason. I said that if the Los Angeles Chargers and the great Jim Harbaugh can get his grubby, dirty little hands on on Ashton Genty, that one Ashton Genty would equate for 2,000 all-purpose yards as a rookie, right? So maybe that's a scenario where we're looking at, right? Now, if we trade back and you said let's get a running back, all that good stuff, I agree with you, but I did stumble upon this nightmare scenario. Okay, so I don't know if you know all the names for the running backs. I don't have a feeling that you do, and that's okay.
Real quick though.
Outside of
Real quick.
go ahead.
Should we have drafted Brock Bowers then?
Well,
So like that's the counter argument there because like clearly
if we drafted Brock Bowers, I can promise you that he'd have the Cole Kmet effect where he just doesn't get utilized, so he wouldn't ever be Brock Bowers in the current light, right?
okay.
Honestly,
So then
Brock Bowers did have
the
Brock Bowers did have the generational label attached to him.
he did. So then best player available is really kind of also tied in with everything else, man. That's what I'm saying. Like when you take it
Now-
all into account at the end of the day, you can get production out of a running back that's later round draft pick if you just use them right, man. If you just do these things right. But like linemen, that's tough, dude. Like, you just need some good linemen. Like, left tackles, these guys don't grow on trees. They're first round
So
draft pick.
let me paint the picture regarding the running backs, and then we can hammer that out, and then we can talk about the left tackle and kind of the discussion that I had with J2K on Twitter, because I think that it's very it directly applies to what we're talking about right now. So, nightmare scenario, right? Bears do not draft Ashton Genty because, again, I don't think it'd be a reach, but I think that it would be too aggressive. It'd be, we're not in the luxury of taking a running back in the top 10 right now, right? So, outside of that, there are a collection of names, and you guys will, debate me and think what you think about them. But in no particular order, the running backs after Ashton Genty that are most valuable in this draft: Omarion Hampton, Cam Scadaboo, Caleb Johnson, and I feel like I'm missing another name. I'm not too sure, but it feels like after those three names, things really fall off a cliff, right? So we can say all we want about how, we can just get a running back later in the draft. This was the nightmare scenario that I stumbled upon earlier. The Raiders and the Patriots, just in front of the Bears, would draft Omarion Hampton and then Cam Scadaboo. Now we're kind of pigeonholed into maybe needing to draft Caleb Johnson higher than we normally would have, because we saw this with the wide receivers the other year, right? I believe that it was with Jordan Addison, with Quentin Johnston and Zay Flowers. These guys just went all in a row, right? That's my fear, is that it almost kind of becomes this run on running backs, as fun as that would be to say, right?
No,
I don't want the Bears to miss out. I don't want the Bears to miss out any quality running back.
No. You can sleep well. It's not going to happen. Don't let that scare you. Run on running backs. So, because we still have DeAndre Swift here. Like when you first asked me this question, yes.
But you can't rely on him to be the lead back because he's not good.
But you have other issues that can make him better,
right,
and make that production.
And I've never wavered on the sense that two of these top three picks this year would be linemen. So whether it's overreaching and drafting an offensive or defensive lineman at 10, and then we still have pick 41 to get another piece there. And we're totally missing out on free agency here as well, right? Because you can fill the holes before the draft.
Are you winning the Super Bowl next year as the Bears? Like, there's always
a tiny chance.
I'm not.
Yeah, there is a tiny chance. Absolutely. You've got Caleb Williams.
So let me change it. Do you expect this team to win a Super Bowl next year?
I expect Caleb Williams to play out of his mind, and anything's possible at that point.
Because they have not done anything.
If Bajan starts, I love Chris Foster.
Yeah, but even Jared Goff, if I asked you that about the Lions at the beginning of this year, do you expect the Lions to win a Super Bowl this year?
They were definitely a favorite.
Okay, so that's when you take the first running back or high running.
No, they already had Jahmyr Gibbs. They were a favorite to win the Super Bowl because Gibbs is on their roster.
That's the move that you're trying to make to put you over the top. We still have a guy here for a year that's good enough, and we're not trying to get over to the top. We're trying to get right, and so it's not a concern until it's concerned. It's good enough. It's almost like the left tackle situation, because that's interesting, because you might keep Braxton Jones for one more year too.
It's one of the best contracts in the NFL, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that I think that Braxton Jones is going to have a gold jacket at the end of his career, right? He is nowhere near a Hall of Fame.
You spent the fifth round pick.
Is he like a rotational fringe Pro Bowler? Maybe. I think it's like the Matt Eberflus situation. He's a top 16 tackle in the NFL.
Oh, dude, if he was a backup tackle, that's great. I'd feel the best about him.
You want him to be your backup when he's already had that starting experience, though? I guess you're saying in a vacuum.
Because if what you want to go do is win now, if the Chiefs offered him some bullshit contract to come be a backup tackle there, yeah, you'd do it. For sure you would.
But at this point, it's impossible, because if Braxton Jones isn't starting for you, you have to trade him because he will recoup valuable assets.
And we just went through this with another guy that wound up going to Washington and being the left tackle there. What was his name? I can't.
Like Charles Leno?
Charles Leno, exactly. Same thing, like just good enough based off what you spent on him draft capital wise, and the rookie contract's not much. Like, if there's no clear cut, obvious left tackle upgrade, if you don't go out and spend good money in free agency on some guy who's clearly a premier tackle, then your best option may be to just ride it out one more year because you have other issues that need addressing. And so I feel the same way about the running back situation. I feel the same way about
you aware, Paul?
Situation. That's why I asked you about Brock Bowers. It's like, yes, he wound up doing great and everything, but like we didn't really have a tight end problem, even though we wound up having a tight end problem. It still wasn't much of a concern. Like, dude, the lines, you got to fix the O line, you got to fix the D line. You have to do that.
The lines, not the lines. Okay.
The lines, the trenches, man. Like, we're terrible. Our centers have been Sam Mustipher, Cody Whitehair, Lucas Patrick, and fucking Coleman Shelton. Like, dude, go get a fucking center to play with this kid. Like, it's not like
they grow on trees. I don't want to pretend that Coleman Shelton is the savior, right? But
no.
as far as yes, Ryan Bates is the savior, unironically. Now, if you're not aware, though, just as far as like team needs, the Chicago Bears currently only have one position filled in both the starting and the backup depth chart positions for their interior offensive line. Outside of Ryan Bates, you do not have any left guard signed except for if you count the kid that got hurt. I can't think of his name right now. He's Bill Murray. But you have no center under contract, and your right guard is either Ryan Bates or nothing, right? So you essentially have to fill 5 positions on the interior offensive line. I don't think that it would be smart to waste the 10th overall pick on a left tackle unless there was an icon there. But Joe Alt, like we discussed, is not in this draft. And this is where I'll bring up J2K's comment about how he loves the left tackle out of Ohio State.
You're laying out the case for overpaying Tevin Jenkins right now.
No, I'm not. I'm laying out the case for if Trey Smith was to be on the free agent market for 30 seconds, right? You'd have to develop an AI chat GPT robot to send this bot bid in without it even really having a human chance at it, right? If Trey Smith is available whatsoever, just give him $25 million a year. Overpay for that. Make him the highest paid offensive lineman in history, or maybe interior. I don't know what these tacklers are honestly making. But if Robert Hunt, who is a Pro Bowler, by the way, if Robert Hunt can get $20 million a year, then please, by the grace of God, give Trey Smith $25 a year. He's that good.
I'm gonna laugh.
I think that would be a slam dunk.
Do you see Brian Gilmore's comment?
What's this? Right here? We can't risk another pick on injured players.
Isn't that? I know you guys got into it on Twitter. Isn't that what broke the straw that broke the camel's back, though?
Yeah, I was about to say that because we are in lockstep where we feel that the only way to acquire elite talent at tackle is via the top 10 of the NFL draft. I think that we agree there.
So, yes.
But I just don't think that it would be smart to spend the 10th overall pick on a left tackle who is coming off of an ACL injury. I do not care how long ago it was.
Which is why I'm coming back to trading back. When you kind of put all the chips out in front of you, it's almost like, man, and I know I've been on this like a couple years in a row, and I wasn't on trading the pick 1 back for Caleb Williams. I was like, no, trade pick 9 back instead of Rome Odunze. But, the year before that, I was like, trade back, because there's still just so many needs, and they're pretty obvious and glaring. And so even this year, I'm kind of putting the chips out in front of me. And, dude, I'm telling you, if there's a player worth it, but it's got top 10 picks, man, they have to be slam dunks. And you really, really, really got to be sure of that, man. You got to be as sure as you can be because it looks really, really bad when you draft like Kevin White. Pick 7.
Or it looks bad when the last year we drafted Karan Amagaji, and now we're going to draft another tackle at 10th overall, and we're going to have 3, injured dice rolls at left tackle.
Yeah.
If you can't get an iconic, just plug and play for the next 20 years, get your fucking gold jacket, who, by the way, again, does not exist in this draft, it's not worth it. It would be negligent. I would much rather have Ashton Genty than an injured left tackle at 10th overall.
I'd much rather just trade back, get myself
Right, but like, what are you going to get? It takes two to tango.
It does take two to tango, and I get it. The situation needs to be right, and everything needs to be set out and right. But I mean, if we're just talking preferences, I mean, it's all, we're all just spectating. So, yeah, draft a guard at 10. That's rough.
That would be stupid. I don't want them to do that either. I just want them to take best pick available. I'll say something stupid, and it's my Michigan bias aside. Will Johnson is a great cornerback. Not quarter, but a cornerback out of Michigan. If Will Johnson, who deserves to be a top 5 pick, falls to the Bears at 10, take Will Johnson. Take the best player available.
Part of my issue with the Lions and Jahmyr Gibbs is that they traded up for a guy that wasn't going to get picked.
I don't know about that.
Okay, I don't know about that either. Maybe they heard differently.
It did work out because, again, as I had previously said, I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is the third best running back in the entire NFL.
The Browns were going to draft Trubisky, and that's what Ryan Pace heard, and that's why he had to trade up with the Browns, because that's the info they were getting. So, I don't know about that. I don't know what they've heard, and I don't know if what they've heard was factual or just, just bait out there, because all that stuff is... Yeah, just do a mock draft. I hate mock draft, but
I was about to cue it up. You don't want to do it?
I'll do a mock draft. I don't care, but I'm not going to sit there and pretend that I know these.
Yeah, and same here. Disclaimer. I am not Dane Brugler.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know these guys. I'm actually asking people about questions, but I do go back and I do study the NFL a lot, and I do study draft positions and value with all that stuff, and I'm telling you, man, top 10 quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, that's what you draft top 10. One of those quarterbacks usually pretty high,
okay,
because but otherwise defensive end, defensive tackle, left tackle. If not, get the fuck out, acquire yourself some more picks. You could get centers, you could get running backs, you could get wide receivers, you could get tight ends, second round and further. You could get a lot of players that are still really good talents. And if you have a lot of needs, dude, Ryan Poles did this his first year here. And I was kind of disappointed that this last year he didn't. We went into it with just a couple picks, and we even traded back in. And dude, no, this team's not that good yet, especially with obvious areas. Do we need a center? We just need a center. We can't function.
Okay, but before we do a mock draft, I am trying to build the framework here for our mock offseason. It sounds like you want to attack the trenches and specifically the offensive line hard, but do you want to first address that in free agency? Do you want to pay maximum dollar for the players at that position?
Free agency comes first. So if you do that, then I say give me a defensive tackle, defensive end, or
free agency, or the draft.
I'm saying it all depends on how it shakes out, Karl. But the O-line needs attention in all areas. It needs attention from free agency.
Not right tackle.
From no, that's probably the only piece you have, and it looks shitty because it's surrounded by shit. That's what I'm saying. You may need to overpay Tevin Jenkins. You may still need to go to free agency, and you may need a draft. That's how bad it is, because, like you said, did you replace him? 4 out of 5 guys? It's obnoxious. This should be a multi-year thing, and it hasn't been, because you haven't ignored it completely. But the small moves, Darnell Wright is a first round pick 10, right? But other than that, Karan Amagaji's a round 3 pick. Braxton Jones a round 5 pick. You tried, I guess, with Nate Davis. That failed. You band-aided the center position year after year after year. This is supposed to be a multi-year thing, but because you haven't succeeded, it now needs desperate attention. But yeah, dude, center is probably the easiest fixed through the draft, because it doesn't have to be drafted top 10. You could
Right,
draft
but in the
center
same
in the
breath,
third round.
just because you
So
take
if
a
you
Joe
want your running
Tipman,
back, I'm just saying, if you want your running back, this is the situation you lay out for it to happen. I think you have to trade back. Then you could get your, what's his name?
O'Marion Hampton.
There you go. And a
He's
center.
going to be available hopefully at 39, and that's where I say you'd take him. And you don't have to trade forward or back. You just let him fall to you. Again, so my non-expert analysis would tell you that O'Marion Hampton is a top 10 player in the draft, just off of talent. But again, running backs being devalued, all this silliness, right?
Well,
I think that he would be
Tyreek Hill was a top talent, but then he had some off the field issues. Got kicked
he
out
was
of
not a
school.
top talent in the sense of like the draft.
Yeah,
he was drafted in like the fifth round.
He was the year before he came out. Then he had a lot of problems. He got kicked out of school and everything like that. And so he was drafted in the 5th round because of his situation. The talent, though, was really good. And that's how far he fell, the 5th round. That's why you can gamble on wide receivers that late. Same thing with guards. You could take guards pretty late, man. Centers, 2nd, 3rd round, like that's a good time to draft centers. Running backs, I mean, I don't know if I like a 2nd round pick for a running back, but like I'd be okay with it. But like 3rd, 4th round running pick, 4th round running, 3rd round, 4th round running back picks are fine. Like those are gambles you can afford. But if we're talking top 10, like if we're talking about actually making that pick, I don't know if the left tackle is available this year. I think you have to go defensive line. Depends on how it shakes out. And I think my preference again is like, dude, I don't know, trade back, get some shots at the dartboard. So
the chat has spoken for themselves. They want to see a mock draft. So again, this is not expert analysis, but this is analysis nonetheless, right? So let's just see what we can do here. We're using the old Pro Football Reference, I believe. Again, just as the Bears, we'll do a 4-round draft. We'll see if we can get through 4 rounds. We'll do it fast, of course. Let's enter this, and I just want to see how it goes. I don't know. You can hide it.
Oh, I would have taken it. Take it. What do you mean? You declined the you trade back.
I hit it. I hit it. So again, top 10. Abdul Carter, Cameron Ward, Travis Hunter. Can I make this bigger for you guys? Can you guys see that well enough? What if is there a way where I can do this? I don't know if we're going to be in the way, I feel like, but now let's go back to this. How do we do this, Polly? There you go. Okay. So again, Abdul Carter at 1, Cameron Ward at 2, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell. Wow, Will Campbell at 4 would be nuts. Ashton Genty at 5. Shedeur Sanders, Tertola McDonald, Mason Graham, and Michael Williams. Okay. So how do I find where...
Listen, and in this situation, like, if you feel so good about Mason Graham, like he's going to be a for sure thing, then trade up the 2 spots and get him.
Yeah.
No, like for real.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, and so that's the thing. It's like, dude, if you're going to spend that top 10 pick, you better make sure it works out. And if you're, like I said, if it's a spot or 2 and you have to give up some capital to trade up for it, if you're sure it's going to work out, because, I mean, you're going to be judged on this. Your career is probably going to depend on it if you're Ryan Poles at this point. You know what I mean? You're not very many bad picks away from essentially having a hard case to make for keeping you around. But, like, yeah, dude, if you're sure about somebody like that, then it's worth it. But if you're not, if you're a pick 10 and you're wondering, like, okay, we could take a shot at this guy, we could take a shot at this guy, we need this, we need that, then in my opinion, trade back, because you need a lot. You still need a lot. So
look at these trade offers that we're getting again. The moral of the story was that I feel like the players that were worth taking are gone, right? So now we're looking at a trade with Buffalo. This is too far back and just not a good enough return, right?
Correct.
And then the Ravens, same
too
thing.
Far back. Nope.
Now this was one that I actually kind of like this.
Yeah, so that's something like what I'm talking about. Like, if you could trade back a couple spots, 7 spots, still get a player that you like on the defensive line, and acquire an extra second round pick, well, guess what? Now, if you take that running back in the second, I'm not mad because you've bought yourself the chips to play with. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, and
as long
honestly,
as one of those two guys works out, you're
this
fine.
is probably a better trade. But just for the sake of the argument, I feel like this is a bit unrealistic. You're 2 spots back from the Bengals, but you also get a 2026 second. This is the better trade. But for the sake of this argument, let's just trade back to 17, okay? Let's go from 10 to 17 and pick up a very, it's not early, but it's a decent second round pick to only go back 7 spots, especially considering that there's not a player that I think, I'm not willing to bang the table on anyone else here,
And
even
Carl,
Will Johnson.
may I remind you that last year, and I know this group of guys, draft prospect wise, is different than last year, but last year, the first defensive player was taken at pick 16.
Okay, this is a perfect time for me to explain this to you. Last draft, very offensive heavy, right? This year, very defensive heavy. So it's kind of a weirdness in the sense
So,
that it's
what you're
not
telling me is we
balanced.
trade back and still probably take our pick of the litter at, maybe other than one or two offensive tackles. How many offensive tackles have gone?
Okay, so Will
One.
Campbell went at 4. Ashton Genty, the running back's gone.
No,
Um,
offensive tackles, just one.
yeah,
So you're saying we could trade back and get the second highest
no,
prospect offensive tackle, like, or the third, or like, that's a lot of options still. So like that's worth doing then, unless you're
the
sure that.
49ers will take a tackle.
Yeah,
This,
I
this
know
is
they
not
will, and I know
realistic.
this is right, exactly. But what I'm saying is, it still buys you some flexibility depending on how it works out. Because look at the team needs: guard, edge, center, defensive tackle, offensive. Like, there's a lot we need. Pick, like, if you could get one of those.
Wait a second. Is this legitimately telling me that Tyler Booker is the 18th best prospect in this draft?
Maybe.
Is that what this is saying, guys? I thought Tyler Booker was being mocked in the second round at
Yeah, it's a
41.
mock, dude. Whatever. Like, it's an
This
early
is
mock.
nuts. The amount of shifting just because of a silly Senior Bowl. This is nuts.
Oh, dude, it's gonna keep shifting like crazy. So,
And with the 17th pick in the 2025 draft, the Chicago Bears select Colson Loveland, tight end, Michigan. You guys would fucking go nuts.
oh, dude, if we pick a
Um,
corner, I might just lose my shit if we pick a corner.
yeah, you would
That's
not
where
be
the
happy.
best
I
player in
would
the
though.
draft argument, I can't buy into it. Like, that's what I mean. Like last year, like if we drafted Brock Bowers, would have probably lost my shit. He's a good player, yes, but like, man, you got to balance the need versus the talent, and our needs are obvious, man, and we got to do some real work here. So, like,
Booker
yeah,
is insanely good. I don't know. I watched Alabama lose when it matters the most twice in the last 2 years to Michigan. I think
okay, but you get Booker
I
plus another
think that the
guy.
defensive tackle Kenneth Grant is a better player comparatively to Tyler Booker. I'm
But
all on Tyler Booker, but I thought he was a second round pick. We're talking about taking a guard at 17.
and you get a second round pick, right? So it's not just the guard. You're like, because you that that's the thing about trading back. Like, dude, it was worth trading back the number one overall pick just for DJ Moore. Like, that, in my opinion, to drop back that year that
Ba-
many
ba-
spots.
Banks is the obvious pick. Cliff, no.
So, like, honestly, when we got Caleb Williams as part of that same package for like, that's just the cherry on top of the sundae, man. Like, we had already won that trade, plus now we got more, and we got real lucky. But like, dude, if you trade back, it's not who you just take here, it's also who you take with the pick you have. And I'm telling you, if you could just hit 50-50 in these drafts, you're a great GM in this league. Right? So as long as one of these two guys works out, you'll be it's worth it. You know what I mean? That's why I said if you're going to use the top 10 pick, you got to make sure it is
Well,
worth it. Like at the end of the day, otherwise you're gambling.
we've traded out of the top 10 picks, so we're
Right.
kind of stalling at this point, right? So as far as like just a philosophy standpoint, you've traded down to 17, and you're looking at, let's call it, one of the top 3 tackles in the entire draft.
Correct.
You're talking about the best possible guard in the draft,
Correct.
debatable with Will Campbell. What are you leaning towards? Because if I had my choice with my Michigan bias, I would say that we should take a guy like Kenneth Grant because he's one of the better defensive linemen, and I think that the Bears improving on their interior defensive line after a trade down is a marvelous idea. But do you think that they can afford to do that?
Further, then you should have taken the Steelers deal or the Bills deal, or if you're going to get a guy that's rated lower than
I don't
still feel good about it. So like in this case, for like just argument's sake, we at least have still a Band-Aid at left tackle. We definitely don't have a Band-Aid at guard. Right? So like in this case, if you have a pick of the litter after trading back at any guard out there, you could at least make the case for taking a guard this high. If only one tackle's been taken, oh, dude, you take offensive tackle. You still have a pick at top 3 offensive tackles in this draft. Or, like, dude, or you still got to go D-line. You're still looking at defensive tackles. You're still looking at defensive ends. But in my opinion, like, I would wait on the guard. I'd still be looking at defensive tackles. Like, if you could get a 3 technique, and like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know, a lot about these guys or do a lot of
And Kenneth Grant is not a 3 technique.
No, so like you need a 3 tech at that pick. If not, maybe an edge rusher, or if not, like, dude, you could still have the second best prospect tackle. And this is what J2K was saying earlier. He rattled off a couple names. Okay. So if there's a couple names that are looked at pretty highly and you feel good about one, then yes, that's a position of need. Just take it. You just trade it down. And then, like I said, now you could take your running back and take a center. Or I don't know. Like, dude, there's a lot of options. It all depends on how it shakes out. It really does. But I think you could really benefit with the depth I'm hearing that this defensive class is. I think you could benefit with trading out of the top 10 and acquiring some capital in like the top 50 still. You know what I mean? It makes sense to me.
So the moral of your argument, is that if the Bears were to trade down and only 1 or 2 tackles have gone before in their pick here in the 17th overall selection, you think that they should take a top 3 tackle in the draft?
I'm not going to pretend that I do this for a career. Dude, of course, scout it. If they have a guy on their board that they like and are satisfied with, and he's available after trading back, then hell yes. So, like, for pure philosophy sake, yeah, if like Banks Jr. or Cameron Williams is the guy that you feel really good about and you have a chance to draft him right now at this position, hell yes.
Yeah, I mean, as far as this exercise and this, point in time on this website, they're saying that Calvin Banks Jr. is the best prospect remaining, right? So I'm of the opinion that sometimes things get overanalyzed and warped in a bad way.
Somebody and then they hit a tree and die, and then
right? And the murderer. That's now we're talking about factual evidence. There you go. Love to hear that.
Like, there's these things shake up due to anything.
All I'll say here is that Calvin Banks Jr. was arguably the best tackle in the entire draft. I think that if you do trade down and he's still there, maybe that is something worth taking. And then you exercise the ability to have some of these tackles move to guard or whatever the case is. Hopefully at this point we've already signed a center and a guard in free agency. What are the trade offers? Crimson, I'm not comfortable showing any more trade offers because we've already traded down from 10. This is not the infinite pick glitch. We're not using a combo in Magic the Gathering here. One
Yeah.
trade down, that's all you get. I'm not entertaining this anymore.
Did you see
There
Big
are no
Cat?
trade offers.
Did you see Big Cat with Ryan Poles like 2 years ago?
What do you
He
say?
had
No.
an interview with him. And he's like, "Listen, Ryan, I got this all figured out. Just follow my lead here, and next year we'll have 7 first-round picks."
That's what Big Cat said?
Yeah, he's like, if you just load up this mock draft and trade back, and yeah,
I
obviously,
know.
right?
I
Like
hate it.
it's silly and stupid. So like, yes, one trade back is realistic. If that, like you said, you still have to find the suitor at the end of the day. Like that situation still needs to happen and be possible. There's situations where you might not even be able to trade back, and you have to take a guy at 10.
Yes, that's correct.
Right, so like we don't know, but like
in the idea of not stalling this anymore, what I'll say here is that just from a philosophy standpoint, if the Chicago Bears go into this draft thinking that there are 3 tackles that are no-brainer upgrades to Braxton Jones, because we're not talking about right tackle, we're talking about left tackle. Calvin Banks Jr., I'm pretty sure, plays left tackle. Might be wrong on that. I'm not too sure. I will tell you that Calvin Banks Jr. had the label of being potentially the best tackle in the entire draft. If the Bears trade back and Calvin Banks Jr. is still available, and the Bears feel that it's an obvious upgrade to Braxton Jones, that is who I feel like they should draft. Boom. Done.
And
We've
so
drafted
I will
Banks Jr.
tell
out of
you,
Texas.
now that you press the button, I will tell you this. If Ashton Genty was still available at that spot.
He wasn't.
I know.
He wasn't at 10. That's the cool thing.
But Karl, say he was. I still may pass him up.
Yeah. No, I've completely conceded to there would have to be something serious to happen for Ashton Genty to fall to the Bears after a trade down and for him to be the right move.
Yeah, like he races somebody and they crash into a tree and die, and now he's living by you and everybody else, and he falls 10 spots. But
BearskiFilm, where we talk about putting Jalen Carter in jail. I'm sorry.
No, dude, I'll argue that to a T. I told you that, dude. Like, I drove a sports car when I was younger. They had no business in trying to keep up with him, and the driver of the other vehicle was an idiot and whatever. But yeah, okay, let's keep going with this.
Okay, so just to kind of recap after the Bears pick.
Yes. So say we get
another tackle was taken. Tyler Booker's gone.
Crimson's on it, man. Crimson knows exactly. Now you take a center.
Walter Nolan is a defensive tackle who would be useful. Micah Green, the Senior Bowl standout.
Yes.
Josh Simmons went at 29 at the end of the first round.
It's only like a 4-round draft, and it will be 3 hours for sure.
No, we'll speed this up because I'm not going to leave this running back situation. Oh, what is this? Kenneth Grant is still available.
Goodness. Exactly. So in a situation like that, sure, take the defensive tackle and then take a center because I bet
we've got picks 39 and 41 here. This is what's going to happen. Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
Caleb Johnson's still here.
If I was 19 or 20.
Right, so here's what's going to happen, okay? I still feel like the Bears have to improve.
Crimson said and 49. And 49. Do we still have pick 49?
Yeah.
Boom. Look what trading back does for you. You see what I'm saying? Look how many options it creates for you. So sure, no matter who you take.
But a trade-up situation, let's see who is taken, okay? And this could be realistic, actually.
Yeah, and
because the Bengals. Hold on, the Bengals traded up to 10 to take Will Johnson. That could possibly happen, and it would be worthy of them going from 17 to 10 because Will Johnson is an icon. He will shut down all these idiots on the Chiefs and will help propel Joe Burrow to go to the Super Bowl. So that's a realistic move. I love that for the Bengals. Totally realistic. Let's move on here. As I had always prophesized, Omarion Hampton, the new Chicago Bears running back, if it lets me do it.
Oh, so you picked him real quick compared to the first.
And then now we're just living in magical. We're just living in magical fairyland, Minister Charles Johnson. Kenneth Grant is still available at pick 41, which that's unrealistic. But Paul, would you have any issues with taking a defensive lineman at this point?
No, not one bit, because it's a huge
Especially if
need.
they had a first round tag on them, if they failed to
Yeah,
pick
and
41.
especially if they're like a 3 technique.
Okay, good talk. Boom. He's not a 3 tech, but
No, it just has Michigan next to it, so like.
the problem here is that Kenneth Grant will be a
Okay,
first
and
round pick, and he was
so
available
now
to
you know what
us
you do.
at 41.
Okay, sure. And now you know what you do at 49. You do exactly what Crimson said. You take a center here.
Offensive center.
How many have been taken?
He's the 112th highest ranked
Wow.
prospect. I'm not
Only
doing
2.
that.
No.
Now,
Then you take a guard. Fine,
yeah,
sure. Then you
yeah.
take a guard.
This is
Okay,
where I'm looking at Wyatt Millum. There's another kid
but
who
I would imagine there
J2K mentioned
should
him.
be
I forgot
some.
his name. What's that? J2K, what's that kid's name who's from the small school that's just dominating the Senior Bowl right now?
I'm,
That's a player who I'd be interested in. I
I'm
can't think of
just
his
saying, like,
name.
you could look back through drafts, and you could do this for every single team, and you could point out, oh, they should have taken him instead of him. They should have taken him instead of him, and whatever. Like,
Oh,
you know,
do any prospects really like a massage parlor?
you know what, Chris Kelly? I'm a big believer that those guys that do like the massage parlors, if they were here in Chicago, that would be the least of our worries, man. We have people dying by the dozens every weekend, getting shot. We have stores on Michigan Avenue getting broken into and robbed, and this and that. The last thing we care about is a guy, getting a handy here and there, especially if they're winning. Like, I think Deshaun Watson would have flourished here, man. Flourished.
Okay.
I'm kidding,
So
by the way.
hear me out. Hear me out.
No,
Hear
real
me
quick.
out.
Don't take any of that seriously. That was all a joke. I hope everybody realizes
Are
that.
you just
I'm a little
getting
bit dry
ballsy?
humor.
Are you
I'm a little bit
just
dry
getting
humor, but,
ballsy
like,
because our cameras aren't on the screen right now?
Yes. I put my face to it.
Well, while you guys were bickering about that, I did tweet at Courtney Cronin and I asked her to take a picture.
Oh,
So
no, you didn't.
I hope she owns it, choke. This is unbelievable content. Okay.
I would play the South Park clip. Should I do it?
No.
Not on
Okay,
BCP.
so guys, hear me out, okay? This guy Zabel is shooting up the draft boards, okay? Our opportunity cost is passing up on Wyatt Millum, who's probably a decent guard, but would you prefer to draft a guard or a center? Just kind of from a philosophy standpoint, Paul, knowing that it's not like the top line talent, so to speak.
Listen, we got our punter. Let's get our kicker. No, I'm kidding.
Well, he says Tony Moises draft a fullback, but Roshan
Yeah, I
Johnson's
know that-
already on the roster.
That's why I made that joke.
Hey
It's like,
Siri, do NFL teams need a backup fullback?
you know what's interesting, Carl? You know what's interesting? And this is why you have to balance everything. If you go by pure, like I said, I look at drafts and history and philosophy, and I do some analytics on what's worked out, what hasn't worked out, and what could, if you look at the history of first round drafted punters, you're at 100% success rate, by the way. I think there's been 2, and both of them have been really fucking good. Doesn't mean you draft a punter first round, though. Like, you got to balance numbers.
First round.
Yes, first round punters in the history of the NFL. I believe there's been 2 drafted in the first round. One of them has the fucking punter trophy named after him.
Here's the thing with Minister Charles Johnson comment.
But I'll ask you this.
Greg Zabel can play any position.
Sebastian Janikowski got drafted at the end of the first round by the Raiders. He played at one point. There were 2 players that were the oldest players in the league, and they were Tom Brady and Sebastian Janikowski. He literally kicked for the Raiders for like 21, 22 years. And he was like a 60-plus yard guy if needed. Was that worth the first round pick?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, we drafted Kevin White with pick 7. So we could have drafted back, dropped back to pick 31, taken a Sebastian Janikowski, and like so many of these guys bust, right? So what I'm saying is, as long as it does work out, typically it's worth it. And like, work out for a kicker, yeah, you better kick for the next fucking 20 years if I'm drafting you in the first round. But you did. So like, do you really regret spending that on the guy? Probably not at the end of the day, because you spent a first overall pick on Jamarcus Russell as the Raiders. You see what I'm saying?
I've got you. I'm just trying to
So
make heads or tails of what we're doing in this mock. I mean,
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
no, that's fine. I mean, just from the philosophy standpoint, it still feels like we need to add to the offensive line because all we've done is draft a tackle, and that
Yeah.
doesn't really improve the actual issue. Now, Princely, I'm not going to pronounce the last name. This is an edge rusher who I think has promise. I don't know if he can fall his way into the first round.
I'm shocked that the centers are so bleak. But I
Yeah,
mean,
and
here,
that's
but like, I would take a guard here then philosophy wise. Philosophy
okay.
wise, I
Now
would take
let
a
let,
guard
let me explain
or
something to you.
or
So
an edge, guard or an edge,
okay.
one or the other.
Well,
Yeah.
what if I told you that Gray's able, okay? He's rated as the 99th highest prospect, but that's a fallacy. Zabel, I don't think he's gotten himself into the first round conversation, but he's gotten to the point where he's arguably the best center in the draft, and he has the ability to play either guard position at a high level. Is that something just off of that alone that entices you enough to want to take him, or would you rather just go out and grab the best guard possible?
Um, best at this point, you're
Yeah,
trying
at
to
pick
gamble.
49.
You're trying to gamble as little as possible. Best guard possible. You still want to address your
Okay.
need with the most idea of having a solid success rate. Like you need both. You need center and you need guard. But if I'm more confident that I could get a better guard versus maybe this guy works out or doesn't, I'll just take the better guard.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draft Wyatt Millum because that's the most surefire guard. And I
Okay.
agree with your idea, right? Pick 72 is going to be our last pick for this exercise, and that Zabel guy is still going to be there just because the simulator doesn't have him ranked high enough. I will not take him because I'm positive that by pick 72, Zabel will be gone. So he is out of sight, out of mind. Understood? Thank you. Let's take our way. It's going to take a little while. I'm not interested in a trade down in this situation. Oh, we got a backup for Caleb Williams. I'm sure that makes Chris Foster very happy. As far
You know,
as our options,
Carl, remember what the Redskins did? They drafted RG3 with what? Pick 2? Pick 3?
well, that's a different situation.
No, and then they drafted Kirk Cousins in the 4th round.
Travion Henderson at 68 is very realistic.
And Kirk Cousins wound up being the better quarterback overall.
Yikes. Caleb
like-
Johnson at 64. See, this is what I'm talking about. There's not going to be a third round, a fourth round running back, guys. I'm going to put the camera on for a second, okay? The running backs that you're going to see, the good ones that are going to make an impact in the NFL, they'll be gone by the end of round 3. There's not going to be a day 3 running back who's going to have a Bucky Irving impact, in my opinion. And I'm sure I'll be wrong. I'll take that on the fucking chin, right? These guys, I mentioned the guys on the thumbnail of this video, and then the 2 Ohio State running backs. They will all be gone by the time the 4th round starts. So if you want a good running back, which I think that the Bears literally require that, you're going to have to take one higher than any of you guys are willing to admit.
Nope.
Yes.
Because DeAndre Swift is good enough.
Wrong. No, that's wrong.
For 1 year. And then, listen, you want to make this argument with me next year? I'll entertain it way more than I'm entertaining it this year. If you want to make that case next year, once we fix this lineup.
No, hold on. Let's conjure up this scenario, okay? The Chicago Bears, if they cannot get Trey Smith to be their right guard and make Trey Smith the highest paid right guard in NFL history, I do think that they will spend a lot of money and maybe overpay for a Drew Dahlman, someone who's a center. Okay.
And Crimson just said he did spend a 2nd round pick on a running back in this situation, by the way.
Yeah. And so in addition to that, we drafted a tackle and a guard.
Yeah, so that's fine. But so that's how you addressed it.
Yeah. So I'm glad you guys agree with me.
If you don't trade back,
you burned a 2nd.
Yes, because you were able to trade back, and I know you spent your 2nd or whatever, this and that. But
actually, it's the Carolina draft pick.
You're able to buy yourself the luxury of being able to gamble. But if you don't trade back, if you pick a guy at 10, I am not taking a running back in the 2nd round. Period.
Okay, well, that's where I'm going to have to disagree with you. Hey, Cam Skadabu is still available, but All
Well,
right,
there you
so
go. So you
let's
can
keep
have
this, Paulie,
something.
to the philosophy draft, okay? We've drafted a tackle, a guard, and a starting caliber interior defensive lineman. Philosophy standpoint, in addition to a running back, of course. Philosophy, what are you looking at here? Are you just saying best pick available at 72, or are you still trying to fill a hole?
So 72, this is where you start to kind of teeter-totter a little bit. I'm still a little bit more on the side of need just because of how
Hey,
much need there is. So
we're talking about Paul. We're talking about murderers. Would you take a murderer at pick 72 in the name of Kyron Lacey?
If he can produce as a wide receiver on the field and then stay out of legal trouble, um, sure.
That's
The hell do I
awesome.
care, man? Like,
That's
dude,
I need. I'm gonna. I'm gonna turn that into an audio bit, dude. I said, "Do you take a murderer?" And you said, "If he can produce."
yes, and
That's
stay out
fucking
of jail.
excellent.
Dude, like the worst thing about Aaron Hernandez was that he went to jail. Let's not pretend he did not produce on the field. Like they would have totally kept
Oh,
him
the
if
worst thing
he
about Aaron
never.
Hernandez is that he went to jail, not that he killed someone.
No, I mean obviously that's why he went to jail. Like, but yeah, but like I said, there's a double dozen murders here every weekend. Um, dude, I'm focused on football. Like I'm not trying to fill my team with role models, even though my child does watch it. I get it, but like you have to draw a line somewhere, right? And like I don't just want a team full of Tim Tebow's. Like, dude, if they're great people, fine. But like, would you put up with an Antonio Brown? Would you put up with George Pickens? Like Antonio Brown really produced for like 8-9 years straight. And then once he bounced around the league, teams weren't willing to put up with him because his production also went down. But while he was returning kicks for the Steelers, returning punts for the Steelers, and being the number one wide receiver in the league for like 3 years in a row, the Steelers were putting up with him. Believe me, Antonio Brown has always been Antonio Brown. Like, so you got to draw the line somewhere. And yes, a murder-friendly line for sure. And like Karl, you called Jalen Carter a murderer, and like
That's
he's
fact.
far from it.
Nah.
Yeah, he is. And dude, like honestly, right now, we kind of need the football talent. Like, dude, look at what Rashee Rice went through in the offseason. Crashing a car and shit and whatever, and like, dude, they could still. They're still gonna rely on him. I don't know. League's cutthroat, man. What do you want me to say? You
I need to write that down. That was the funniest thing that I've heard in a
listen.
Bears podcast in a
Okay,
while.
how about this?
Would you draft a
Was it
murderer and you said if he stays out of trouble?
Was it caught on camera?
Oh my god!
Because that
dude.
matters too, apparently. Like if there's video of it, people feel a lot worse.
Guys, just as a reminder, our guest tonight is none other than Bill Belichick. I'm just kidding.
For real though, like, dude, like at the end of the day, you're here to play football. I mean, I don't know. That's all I really care about. I'm not trying to get into morals and philosophy and everything. That's a different channel, man. That's a different show.
Well, let's go back to the idea of our philosophy. So we've addressed ideally one big name in the free agency period with an offensive line signing, and then we've drafted a tackle at 17 and a guard at 49. Do you think that the Bears need to continue to invest at offensive line? Do you think we need to go edge rusher or more defensive line? Or would you say it's more of a best pick available at this scenario at 72?
Yeah, I think you're starting to teeter-totter between the needs and the best pick available. Like if you have a guy that you really like that's a good talent here, you can make the argument for taking him at this point. I personally am very conservative with my approach. So I would still take a need. Like I'm with Crimson. Like I would be kind of leaning towards edge a little bit, or I'd be looking at centers because we still need centers. But dude, if you take like, I know you took the running back early, but like if you took a running back here, I'd be okay with it. Like if you took, even though we have Cole Kmet, like if you felt really good about a tight end here or something, like you could sit there and now gamble this pick with a little bit more of who you think the best talent available is, because you've addressed some needs now, and the needs are obvious. And like those first 3-4 picks, man, dude, we're just in a hole because we failed at doing this over the last 2-3 years. Like,
So, outside of Cam Scatterboo, who I'm pretty adamant will not be available here at 72, maybe he will. And Cylone, let me just directly address your comment. I made the explanation on Zabel. It doesn't matter if he's gone or not at this exercise. By pick 72, Zabel will in fact be gone. I'm certain of it. So, look at your running backs, guys. I don't think Cam Scatterboo will be here. If he is, that would be a very interesting pick for the Bears to acquire. And I don't know if we got pick 72 in the trade. We did not, right? We went from 10 to 17, and then we just picked up a second. Right? That's it, right?
And so like in that case, you're better off drafting edge at 39 and then taking Scatterboo here. You see what I'm saying?
But my comment is about to say that I don't think Cam Scatterboo is going to be here, right? So outside of that, we're looking at guys like DJ Giddens, Tootin, Ollie Gordon. I don't know who these guys are, and these guys I don't think are like the bell cow running back that you want. Even as sad as it is to say, like you cannot rely on Khalil Mullings. Donovan Edwards. Maybe draft Donovan Edwards in the 7th, but he's more akin to like
okay, so
what's his name?
I think that's where we draw the line and we have our differences. Like, so I think it's expectation. Like you're looking at these guys as if, you're expecting them to be starting quality 3-down running backs. And like,
that's what we need.
No, we still have DeAndre Swift for one more year. There's still a Band-Aid there.
He's not a 3-down back that's good enough.
Going to win the Super Bowl next year. If not, then he's good enough to be able to sit there and Band-Aid and buy you time to fix some obvious holes so that next year maybe you can make more of a splash move when it impacts more. Right now, dude, I know I've heard the conversation of if Saquon Barkley was here, would he have done what he did in the Eagles? No. So the fuck are we talking about?
I'm not talking about drafting 2 running backs. That'd be asinine, unless you're talking about drafting a running back as like Mr. Irrelevant, right? Like someone had the great comment, and I made a comment about this last show that I did. Jaden Blue, fantastic. I literally would compare Jaden Blue to a T to Alvin Kamara. What NFL franchise wouldn't want Alvin Kamara on their team? You'd be stupid if you didn't want that. But I feel like you can get him late.
You look at situational football, and like what the Patriots were able to do is they were able to have a running back on their roster who was drafted super late that would appear in one game and get like 4 rushing touchdowns. Why? Because it's a bad weather game. That's their biggest running back. Or they were in, a couple goal line situations and he's their goal line back. So that if you're drafting a running back at this point, you're not expecting him to be like your 3-down starter. No, DeAndre Swift still has that role for another year. And if you could take, some of the pressure off his shoulders and in certain situations be able to use Roshan. Okay, dude, how about this? I'll ask you this. Where did Montgomery have more success? On the Bears or on the Lions?
On the Lions.
In which way?
Obviously, in the public eye, he became a much more valuable piece because the fans adored him because the Bears offered him the exact same contract and he chose the Lions, right?
What about stat-wise?
I don't know.
So statistically, he had 1,000-yard season on the Bears. I believe 1,070. And I believe his first year on the Lions, he broke 1,000, but it was like 1,017. So yardage-wise, his best year was still here on the Bears. However, his touchdowns increased dramatically. They went from like 5-7 touchdowns to like
because of the better offensive play calling and better offensive line. I understand that.
In better situations, like so. Is DeAndre Swift that? No, but then get a guy that does that. And so that's where you can find some of these no-name guys by scouting them, by saying, hey, this guy does this well. And if he does this well and we take him here and then we put him in situations to do that, he will work out as a 4th-round pick or as a 3rd-round pick. You see what I'm saying? You're drafting a guy at pick 39 to take over DeAndre Swift's job. And I get that. That's what you want.
Absolutely. My fear with this offense is if the Chicago Bears have an eerily similar running game to what they had this past year, and it's that bad where it can just be shut down, then they can hone in on the on the passing offense, and you're back to a 2024 situation. You need to have some sort of balance, and I think that just by drafting a running back that really allows you to take your offense to the next step, continue to invest in Caleb Williams, and have a balanced, potent offense. But if you just run it back with these bozos that we've got right now, I'm going to be a little bit nervous about that.
But at the same time, we're saying that if Saquon Barkley was here in this situation, he wouldn't have done much better, right?
Now,
so those are contradictory.
If Saquon Barkley
comments, so that's why we are improving.
Hold.
Helping the offensive line. You know what I'm afraid of, Karl? I'm afraid of seeing the same pass rush fail us. And so that's why, like that pick, Omarion Hampton, I know you made that pick quick. And I said, you picked him pretty quickly because that's your guy, and I know you're high on him and this and that. Still, based off the needs, man, you're probably better off taking edge there. You really are. Because, dude, it'll make more of an impact.
Our opportunity cost at this point was Shamar Stewart, who we still could have gotten him at 41. We ended up taking a defensive lineman who is going to essentially improve the defensive pass rush, right? Then we're looking at, we haven't missed anything. There was no edge taken. So before that, we've got JTT. There was, I'm sure that the kid from Ohio State's gone as well, right? Unless I'm silly.
Like I said, it depends on how it shakes out.
I guess not. But where the hell did he go?
Positional value-wise and need-wise.
Jack Sawyer.
We need edge way more than we need running back.
I fucking love Scottish Beer. Yeah, I'm firing both general managers as well at this point.
Yeah. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to pretend like I sit here and do this as a career. Like, dude, they have a whole scouting department. They work fucking, hopefully longer than 9 to 5, but
yeah, absolutely.
Obviously they're going to sit there and dive in and obsess over this and everything like that. And grade these guys and rate them all out. All I'm saying is when you look at history draft wise, there's guys that are diamonds in the rough. And when you take those diamonds in the rough and you break them up into positions, very few times does a defensive tackle or an edge come out as a diamond in the rough. It's rare. But running backs, man, David Montgomery was a 3rd. So I know we may not know their names, but that's because we don't do this as a job. I'm telling you, there are guys out there that will produce that can get drafted this later. It's just going to happen. Same thing with wide receivers.
So you want to spitball at the running back position and essentially take one later in the draft, knowing that if they flame out, it doesn't matter? Is that what you're saying because they're not in a Super Bowl window?
No, knowing that that's not what we need to address right now, dude. It's a luxury pick, and we're not anywhere near luxury.
Okay, let me explain.
At this point, Karl, how about this? At this point, I would rather do kind of what they did with DeAndre Swift. I would rather go the Josh Jacobs route, the Derrick Henry route, or the Saquon Barkley route. Just pay for a guy that at least
there isn't a jag to pay. There's no jags that are worth paying in this cycle.
And he's here for one more year, and you're going to have to deal with it.
That's why you can maximize that value by not asking him to be your 3-down running back. Because when DeAndre Swift is asked to run between the tackles, he falls apart. He sucks. And he gets traded from the team that drafted him, and he gets traded from the team that's trying to win a Super Bowl because he's not good enough. I think you need to improve the running back position. I see your argument. But let me just show you what this simulation is explaining to us. After Omarion Hampton went at 39 running back, now we're talking about a running back going at 44. We're talking about a running back then going not until pick 64. Then you've got a running back at 68, and I thought there was another one. But by pick 72, all these decent running backs will be gone.
Honestly, we're talking about like the actual, okay, on paper, the actual need is running back 3. Like whether you like it or not, currently running back
I
1 is
think that
Swift, running back
Roshan
2 is
Johnson
Johnson.
doesn't have a future on the Chicago Bears, if not at fullback, and I don't think
Does
that Roshan Johnson
contract
should be
wise,
counted on as running back 2.
well, so like we have way more of an issue at center than having our 2-year rookie on his rookie deal running back being running back 2. This is what
So
I'm saying. So like I get what you're saying, that like you have the opportunity to get a guy that might be super explosive and might be super impactful and everything like that. And I'm telling you, those guys like Saquon Barkley are they don't come around often, man. And like
I just love this comment from Tony Moy. I mean, I do not think that Karl and Paulie right now are Ian Cunningham and Ryan Poles. I think that we are two different, books at this point.
oh no, but it's kind of the same, because like Ryan Poles wanted to trade up for Rome, and Ian Cunningham was like, dude, just sit still. And Rome fell to him. I would have told you to trade back, but like, yeah, you do kind of need to have that little back and forth. And I think we are
Yeah.
on two very opposite ends of our draft philosophy for sure. I think you're definitely getting the yin and the yang here for sure. I'm telling you though, Karl, like we need to replace a lot of, what happens in free agency matters a lot too, because that comes first.
And I
So,
guess that's what makes this situation a little bit more hard to navigate, right? Because I feel like we should be in agreement that by the time the draft is here, the Chicago Bears have made a significant investment on the offensive line. I think that there's 3 very obvious options that could happen. Option A, which I really don't think is possible, but if it happens, again, use your AI chatbot to submit the bid for Trey Smith if he was to become available 30 seconds after being available and make him the highest offensive line paid lineman in NFL history, right? Outside of that, maybe you make a significant investment in center. You sign the guy from the Falcons, Drew Dahlman, okay? Outside of that, worst case, maybe you just overpay for Tevin Jenkins out of continuity's sake. That would really fucking frustrate me. But one of those 3 things will happen, in my opinion. So now we've gone into the draft. We've traded back. We've acquired a top tackle in the draft, who, in my opinion, will probably sit for a year behind Braxton Jones. And then we've drafted a starting guard at 49, and we've already made a significant investment. So we're what? We're missing one position. You're saying that. So here's another thing I've got to ask you. Do you want 2 rookies starting on your offensive line in this upcoming year?
of course not, but we're fucked, and we're gonna have to have them.
No,
Like,
you could sign 2 guys in free agency. So
okay,
you've got 1 rookie.
so I guess my thing is like, dude, when you do make that move, you're okay. Let me explain it like this: like Jalen Hurts, I agree with you, is not that great. That's why they went out and got Saquon Barkley, and Saquon's really carried him. He has. He's made Jalen's life a lot easier, right? I don't know if they have the same success without him. However, they're still a good team and they were competing. Lamar can't get over the hump. So what do? You go out and get Derrick Henry to try and get over the hump. Brock Purdy, you know he's good. It can take you somewhere, but you try and go out and get Christian McCaffrey to go out and try and get over the hump, because Brock Purdy's not going to be able to do it. Patrick Mahomes can do it. He can put it all on his shoulders and do it. That's why you don't need to worry about it. What I've seen this team do right now is go all in on the quarterback. We're trying to get Caleb Williams good enough to where, like, dude, the running back isn't going to matter that much as other things matter, So, like, I think there's plenty of room to increase production for Cole Kmet. I think getting the line run right, getting the offensive line right, will help increase production for DeAndre Swift. And as far as just looking at next year alone, I think that running back room is okay enough, man. Okay enough for next year. And like, sure, you could add a piece. It's going to be a late piece, though. I don't think it'll be as high as like 39, just because, like I said, I'd feel so much better drafting like an edge right there. I really would.
Okay, well, we can cap off this argument then because I've been alluding to it. I don't know if this player is deserving of going here, but just to embarrass myself on the Bears Country podcast and BearskiFilm and the Thy&Smi channel, let's take an edge. Let's take an explosive and a relentless edge
Well, at this point,
out of the University of Michigan.
there you go. If you got a guy you like here still, sure. But I mean, this is pretty late to take an edge. I would have taken the edge in round 2. At this point, I think
I may have to retract that. I forgot. Josiah Stewart in a 3-4, sorry, in a 4-3 is not going to be good.
Centers out there, they're still good. I mean, but I don't want 3 rookies on the offensive line either. I hear you, man. It's a tough situation the Bears are in. That's why we're going to have to see free agency first. We're going to have to see how they address this first. That'll kind of narrow down the team needs a little bit. I don't know if we're in position to gamble with the running back. We might be. Especially, like I said, if we trade back and create that opportunity, I have a lot less of a problem with it. And could the running back room use improvement? Yes. Is DeAndre Swift the ultimate guy? No. Is he good enough just to band-aid it for a year if you need to? Yes. Same thing with Braxton Jones. Like, if you don't take a left tackle, is Braxton Jones for another year all that bad? No. Like, but you got to get these obvious holes filled, man. I'm really worried about guard. I'm really worried about center. I'm really worried about defensive tackle. I'm really worried about edge. And, like, I don't know.
So, Chat, I'm leaning edge here. I feel like edge is something that would be very useful here at pick 72 for the Bears. Out of the list of names that you guys see on the screen, Landon Jackson, Kyle Kennard, David Walker, Ashton Gelotti, I can't even pronounce that name. Is there any name that's sticking out to you guys? I'll look at the defensive tackles here as well.
But like I said, Karl, at this point, you do teeter-totter between best player available. Like, if there's a really good corner that fell, like, you know what I mean? Does that become enticing? Because at this point, this late, you can start taking those gambles.
Yeah, Tony Moy, I'm really hopeful that the Chicago Bears can draft sign Josh Sweat.
And I hope Andrew Billings comes back and stays healthy. That's really important.
Yeah, the Adam Masons of the world will tell you that he's not starter quality, but I beg to differ, man. I love
test will tell you otherwise, man. I saw just like
the defense immediately gets significantly worse as soon as he tore his pec. Immediately.
100%.
Okay, so we've got guys going Landon Jackson, Deion Walker, Kyle Kennard. So Cliff, what's up with Landon Jackson? Looking up at the edge, right? If we look up at Landon Jackson, he's significantly taller and bigger than Josiah Stewart. It says that he brings an imposing frame and impressive athleticism to edge. He may not be in the same tier as elite prospects. His ability to win on the outside with refined handwork and natural movement makes him a disruptive force with plenty of upside. When we're talking about a Dennis Allen defense, Dennis Allen loves for his defensive ends to be oversized. He loves when he can only bring 4 and have those 4 men on the line of scrimmage kind of control the box. So he doesn't have to bring extra people, things like that.
I almost hope one of these guys' friends.
Jackson in the Senior Bowl was good.
You hear me, Karl?
No, what'd you say?
I almost hope that like one of these good prospects has a friend who tries to race them.
Bro, I'm gonna make so many audio clips out of this, dude.
We need somebody to fall here, man. We do. Like
no, it's saying right here, Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson is the 45th ranked prospect in this, and he's going to be available at 72. I'm liking the idea of this edge prospect here, then, because
look at this. If Deion Walker as the number 48th prospect is still available at 72, then like why do we pick Kenneth Grant? Oh, because Michigan, that's right. But like in that case,
but Kenneth Grant is a first-round pick, and he fell to 41.
Okay, that's fair. But what I'm saying is like the next defensive tackle behind. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend like I have my homework done on all these guys.
No, but just from a philosophy standpoint, Kenneth Grant If you draft Kenneth Grant, Deion Walker, and you have Gervon Dexter and Andrew Billings, only 2 of those guys can be on the field at the same time. Even
No,
if they all
that's why you
4 are
take the
good
edge.
players.
That's why you take the edge at 39, and that's why you take that guy that you wanted running back at 72 then. Like, that's more
That
real.
running back won't be there. There's no good running backs left in the
Go back
draft.
yeah, there's the one that you wanted. Cam, what's his
Well,
name?
he's available in this exercise, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, he won't be there.
Yeah, but like to me, that's more of a more realistic philosophy than.
Crimson says that I blew this draft up. I don't know if that's a joke for Jaden Blue, but are you essentially
No,
saying that just drafting a running back early essentially just ruins everything? Like, I
no,
don't know
I'm
if I
saying
agree
like
with that.
you have to be in a position to be able to do that, and I just don't think we're in position to do that. And listen, Carl, I argued this tooth and nail. I don't think we were in position to draft a wide receiver at 9 last year, and like because we did, I think that's kind of snowball effect put us in the position we're at now. Like we could have gotten an edge last year if we traded back, and like we
Now,
could have. So like I'm saying, listen, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, right? You do have to balance best player available. If they think Hampton as a running back is going to be their running back one, what it all comes down to is certainty of these guys panning out. I think that is more important than anything else because if you, like I said, if you just hit 50-50 in these drafts, you're great. So, like, I don't know, depending on how it all shakes out, I guess I'm okay with any pick being taken anywhere as long as it works out. Like, I made the case for Sebastian Janikowski as a kicker for 20 years, but it took a first round pick. But, like, I've seen worse first round picks. So, like, I've seen worse pick 39s than a running back. Like, I don't know. It just depends on how you feel with your philosophy, your needs, and talent available, and how it all shakes out. Personally, I don't know. I'm very conservative when it comes to team needs, just because I feel we're still not. Dude, in the last 12 years, we've had one season over 500. So, like, we're still not a 500 football team consistently. I think there's a lot of unpopular picks that need to happen in order to, I don't know, get there. Like,
now, just from the philosophy standpoint, what is unpopular about the Bears taking a lineman in the first round, the Bears taking 4 defensive linemen in the top 72 picks? Sorry, 4 linemen, both offensive and defense, in the top 72. That's not unpopular at all.
Last year they took a punter before they took an edge. Like I don't agree with that philosophy. You know what I mean? And I don't agree with that need, but obviously they valued how good the punter was at his position. And then I said, okay, if this punter's here for the next dozen years, then it's worth the 4th round pick, regardless, right? So, yeah, I mean, who exactly they're going to take and whatnot, and even the philosophy, it's so hard to predict this early. We still do need free agency to shake out. That's going to be the big key variable.
I don't know if you and Cliff are the same person now, like you said at the exact same time, and it's a fact. You won't know until you know what you've addressed via the free agency. Because even if the Bears want Trey Smith, which they obviously will, he's probably not going to reach free agency. So just because of that, if they miss out on Trey Smith, they probably do have to go guard higher than anyone would want. So I don't know if that means you'd trade down to 17 and take Tyler Booker. I don't know if that means that you'd be trading up to get an offensive lineman. I just don't know.
So that's why I make the case for Tevin Jenkins. I think you do know what you're getting with Tevin Jenkins.
He'd be option 3 in what I explained to you.
I guess, but like you do know you're getting 12 games out of him, not a full season, right? Like you're lucky to get a full season out of him. But when I asked somebody this, like, what would I asked Shorty this in a personal conversation, like, what would your max money amount be for Tevin Jenkins? And I think he said like 9-10 million. And I was like, oh, well, mine's actually a bit higher. I would be
because the best guards in the NFL make 20.
Yes, I would be willing to give Tevin Jenkins like 13 million for 3 years.
Oh, you cannot do a long term with him.
3 years.
Two
What?
max.
1.5 guaranteed.
Sure.
So like the guarantee is what actually matters, right? Like if you can't stand in a year and a half, we'll cut you and cut our losses, and we paid you 20 million, right? But like I think you could do a 3 year, 13 million a year deal with him. And like the reports I saw coming out was saying like 12 million. So I'm like, man, I might be overshooting it. But like, I think at this point, yeah, that's not like a band-aid like some of these other things are. That's more of like one of those heavy duty band-aids, like one of those big ones. You know what I mean? It's still not like the for sure thing, but like, yeah, they will let Tevin test the market. And that's the thing is like they also don't have the leverage he does because of the need in our situation. So, like, are you better off just paying Tevin Jenkins so you could draft your flashy running back or whatever? You see what I'm saying? So you kind of get that need off the board a little bit. You might have to pay for it, but it's not going to be that much. How much are you overpaying?
Yeah, it just
Like,
sucks because I have a feeling that you're going to end up paying a lot of money for Tevin Jenkins, and he's just not going to play, and he's not
but
going to
like,
be good when he plays.
okay, so like I made this argument with myself in the past, and I try and learn through, when I have theories in the past that don't work out and I'm proven wrong, I take it into consideration, and I try and like remember that moving forward. I was totally against paying Robbie Gold. I was like, no, we got John Fox here. We're looking at 3 seasons of failure and overturning the roster. What do we need a top tier kicker for the next 3 years? We're going to pay Robbie Gold $5 million a year to stick around and just not be worth it because we're overturning a whole roster. We're doing a clear rebuild. So he went to San Francisco that had some chance of contending. And then when this rebuild was done, we went out and signed Mike Glennon, Giraffe Neck, Mr. I see the game from Madden point of view. We paid him 20 million, guaranteed 16 million. And he played 4 games and got hurt. And I remember thinking, like, man, that's 16 million right there buys you Robbie Gold for that many amount of years. And then you never come across the Cody Parkey situation. Even though you overpaid a kicker, situationally, it didn't make sense. Financially, it's only a couple $1,000,000. It's not like you're overpaying Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins. That's why these guys got franchise tag. Like you're not. It's not 10 million. Like how much are you overpaying Tevin Jenkins really? $1 million or two?
I'm not sure
Not
because
that
it just
bad.
feels
It's
like.
really just not that bad.
Are you saying in your situation where he gets 13, 14 million?
I'm saying there's I've seen money spent worse than that.
It just sucks because he
It
wasn't
does.
making as
He's
much
got
money.
leverage.
You're not investing a lot into the money, you're not investing a lot of money into the offensive line, which is clearly a problem. Now we're talking about re-signing a player who is a part of the problem for a lot more money, and
I
you
don't
don't
think
know
he
if
was
he's
a
going to
part of
be
the problem.
readily available to. I
So
do. I don't think that he was a good player
where
for us this year.
we, okay. Out of out of all the highlights I've put together, out of a lot of the tape I've watched over the years, like before I even had this channel,
Oh,
there's very few linemen that have ever stuck out to me. I literally was able to put a highlight reel together on Tevin Jenkins. Now,
I'm not
not
talking
this year.
about before 2024. 2023, 2022. I have always, you could look up the video because it exists now, right? I was of the camp, in the camp, as David likes to say, that Tevin Jenkins was fringe all pro. Not
Yes.
a pro bowler, he was a fringe all pro. Like as good as it gets at his position. This was the year that I wanted to see that from Tevin Jenkins so that he could get the money. He needed to earn this contract for his wife and his new child. And he just didn't do it. He didn't play up to the standard that I set for him. And that frustrates me, and that's why I don't think that giving him a big investment as far as a contract is in the cards.
Okay. And then do you remember at the beginning of the year when he had a comment that was just kind of like, listen, we can only do what we're what's within our
I'm doing my
possibility.
job. Yes, I know the
I'm
comments.
doing my job
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So I've seen that guy perform, have a high motor, play through the whistle. I've seen him be mean. I've seen him be angry. This year, he had a down year. Honestly, the whole fucking team had a down year. DJ Moore signed a contract and looked like he wanted to quit in the first half of the season.
I don't like that comment about DJ Moore. I felt like the entire year essentially he was hurt. Are
He
you
was.
trying
He
to
was.
spin this?
No. So what I'm saying is like I'm not confident that I mean, I'm saying I'm not so sure that Tevin Jenkins is just going to suck from now on. I'm pretty confident.
Are you trying to spin it that Tevin Jenkins suffered because of poor coaching, and that if we were to sign him on a relatively friendly deal, that better coaching could return him to his form?
I'm trying to spin it in a way where I'm not trying to over evaluate this team, and I'm looking at a lot of holes and a lot of needs and a lot of necessity, and there's a lot of band-aids that could be placed for a year, 2 years, 3 years. There's a lot of holes that need to be addressed right now, period. But I think Tevin Jenkins, 2-3 years, is not the worst thing in the world. And I think that band-aids something well enough for you to fix the other things around it before he's the issue.
I will say this, and then we can wrap this up. If Trey Smith does not hit free agency and the Bears are not able to submit that automatic bid to make him the highest paid offensive lineman, and then their second plan, overpaying and maybe getting the best free agent center, who arguably could be a negligible upgrade to Coleman Shelton, but let's just call it the best available center. If that falls through, at that point I'm okay with re-signing Tevin Jenkins to this deal alone. Not $20 million, not $15 million. Less than $15 million. Call it a 2-year contract, only 1 year guaranteed. Essentially, at $13-14 million, it's starting to become a team-friendly deal, if we're being honest with ourselves. And just out of continuity's sake, if that's what you've got to do because plans A and B have fallen through, then so be it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a totally fair point, and I agree. Like, just you don't have much leverage when it comes to the offensive line. You failed it bad enough to where you need to replace enough to where you are going to need to make some moves that you don't like. So whether it's overpay a different guy through free agency or overpay Tevin, you're right. If we go that route, if we overpay somebody through free agency, then Tevin becomes a little bit more
Expendable, yeah.
Expendable, yes, for sure. I still would prefer to overpay Tevin rather than have 3 rookies from the draft on the line.
Yeah, I think you answered my question.
You know what I
I
mean?
don't feel comfortable having the Bears have 2 rookies on their offensive line, period. Whether that's at
max.
center and tackle, right guard and left guard. Even if they're not next to each other, I am not fucking cool with that. So if you're going to tell me that the Bears should fill 4 positions on the offensive line with 4 rookies, I'd rather blow my brains out.
Yeah, it's not doable.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. That's why, like I said, they have.
I've seen unironic mock drafts of the Bears taking 4 tackles in a row, and they're like, "I'm quitting my day job to do draft analysis." Like, no, man, that's not how this shit works.
Like I said, first round punters, 100% success rate. You heard it on BearskiFilm.
We're playing the analytics.
The first round, and they will work out.
Can you imagine if the Bears and Richard Hightower had a formation on the first 4th down of the year where they had 2 punters on the field?
Oh,
now we're just getting fucking stupid.
You want to get wild? I kind of brought this up, like, dude, with how much these quarterbacks are demanding money-wise, like, let's go back to having them kick again. Okay, if you can eat up my punter's contract, you could also punt the ball. I'll pay you $50 million. I'll pay you $60
Would Justin Fields be the most versatile punter in the NFL?
But there's been guys like Chad Ochocinco that have kicked.
Hey, Justin Reed. Justin Reed, the starting safety for the the Chiefs, who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. He has made field goals when it matters. He has kicked off on special teams at kickoff when it matters. That is a valuable asset. You're not wrong.
And like
And
with the Super Bowl thing,
they're a
with the
unicorn, but
with the Mannings right now. Like, did you see that commercial where Eli's
no.
like, I've always wanted to be a kicker.
Yeah.
Like teasing him, like, oh, you have to be a quarterback like the rest of us. It's like, dude, no, for real though. Can you kick? If you could kick, and I could open up a roster spot here, and need some money, like, I don't know, man. Like, so I've gone into that wacky thought process as well, Carl. I could go down.
Is Bob the one that said earlier today that he had to go?
Yeah, he's back.
And he's all the way back saying NFL salaries are pacing the price of eggs. Yeah.
For real, though. Like, dude, but in my mind, it's always value. If you can get the value right for contracts and positions and things like that, that's how you really build a good team that lasts for a while.
That's
yeah,
funny.
He used to be part of the. Yes, exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's not so much a unicorn. It used to be expected. Guys, we'll end it on this, Carl. I know that there was a Super Bowl that was won in like the 20s or the 30s, and the guy that won it, the quarterback, was carried off the field because he made like a last-second play for a touchdown to win it, and his team took him, carried him off the field on their shoulders. They went into the locker room. He had changed, got on a bus, and drove down to the butcher shop where he worked an 8-hour shift after winning a Super Bowl. So
that's not how things are anymore.
A long way, right? So, yeah, exactly.
That's fact.
For sure. So, guys, thank you so much for sitting here with us for almost 3 hours. And, talking ball and just entertaining bullshit. So,
yeah, I enjoy the mock-off seasons where it's kind of not like... It is thought out, but it's not like pen to paper stuff, right? It's a lot of spitballing, and I think that's kind of why I want it to be like a mock-off season version 0. Just some spitballing, and it's fun. I think that the exercise proved, in my opinion, that the Bears can draft a running back high, which is a need, in my opinion, and still address the offensive and defensive lines. Now, as Paulie pointed out, it probably requires a trade down, and I'm gotten to the point where I think maybe I agree with that. You need to be able to afford the luxury of trading down, but the quality of player that you want to obtain is not going to be readily available in the 4th, 5th round. It's just not feasible, right? So it's a fun exercise to go through, and I think that maybe I'd like to revisit this after the free agency period, because we're not going to really know exactly what this team needs until the free agents have been signed. Then that's when the mock drafts are going to be coming hot and heavy.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to start doing my homework on for sure. What free agents are available for our team needs, what they're asking for and everything like that. Because, that's the next domino to fall for sure. But yeah, guys, bear down. I really, 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 like I said, I don't get too hyped up. I do appreciate at least taking a path and following it. And that is what I'm seeing this team do right now with the coaching staff. They are going all in on Caleb Williams. And you know what? We haven't had a first overall pick since 1957. And then we had one, 2 years ago. When we traded it back for the Hall. And the Hall brought us another number 1 overall pick. And we got a generational prospect. Like, we've already gambled so much on Caleb. That why not just put all your chips in and do it? So, like, at least they're putting all their chips in. But, I'm with J2K. Like, dude, Caleb Williams is the spotlight here. Do everything you can to help that guy be good. And, Karl,
it sounds like we need to cheat. Why don't we just talk to Chiefs management and tell them
Jalen Hurts right now?
Let's just make up lies. Let's make up lies. Let's use AI to get Trey Smith in the gas mask, smoking weed, whatever it takes to pry him away from the Chiefs.
I don't care what they do. Some talent needs to drop here, and we need to take advantage.
What if something was to happen to Paulie where he was no longer able to create YouTube videos, let's say, and I blamed that on Trey Smith? Is that a good idea, Paulie?
No, like you'd have to like Trey Smith would have to touch me somehow.
Oh, I can get his prints on you. That's not a problem.
You'd have to go down that route. Like, no, it's got to be bad.
I can make that happen. That's not a problem.
Apparently, like I said, I'll go at it with the Jalen Carter situation. Apparently, that's enough. Like, just being sober in your sports car.
Chris Kelly says, great car crash of a mock draft, but I didn't draft Jalen Carter, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm off to paint my nails. I'm so shocked at how active the chat's been. I really am. I appreciate all you guys on BearskiFilm channel, on Thy&Smi channel, and on the BCP channel. And guys, if you're not subscribed to one, both, or all three, I would totally recommend doing so. We're all a little bit different, but you know,
it's one big happy family at the end of the day.
Obsessed.
All the names in the chat, all of you fantastic people, which again, I'm not going to name off your names anymore because you guys have far exceeded the ability for me to do that. You guys are fantastic, but you guys are in each and every, you're going making your rounds, right? You're in BearskiFilm, you're in Thy&Smi, you're in the Bears Country Productions, so you guys are fantastic. Again, I could never say thank you enough. You guys are great.
Cliff is right.
I know, Cliff.
Cliff was driving a sports car. They were driving like a Jeep Grand Cherokee or something. Not being sexist here, because that's not what BearskiFilm does, but it was a female driver. Female driver. That tried to keep up with a sports car in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I don't know if you've ever driven a sports car, but it's like that's not a race. That's just you being stupid.
Well, why don't I drive my sports car to your house, Paulie, and then we'll test it out,
dude.
The Thy&Smi after show.
I had a Firebird back in the day, and my buddy had a Corvette. Dude, he would just let me go and still just get in front. Like there was no question of whose car is faster. I don't care how. It's stupid for me to lose control and smash into a tree and kill myself over it. So it's not Jalen Carter's fault, man. Just not. It's the talent.
The problem is that
field, Karl, the talent on the field.
I thought that I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't want to one up the best comment today. Normally the best comment of the day is from the chat, but unfortunately, chat, you let us down. You let Paulie have that title today because I have to go back and find it, but it was along the lines of, would you draft a murderer? And then you said, did he get caught?
On the field.
That was the best. You're going to hear that on the Thursday, on the Monday. You're going to hear that on every show I ever do from now on.
Dude, what was that guy's name? He was on the field for what one of the playoff games. He was like a rapper or something. And then, 2-3 days later, it came out that, he's wanted for murder. Jesus. No, they had Kevin Warren shaking his hand. Oh, dude, I will send you the short. I know where to find it, too. My buddy Shane from Windy City End Zone was sitting right there, and he did it. But it's like, yeah, dude, what do we...
You're not talking about Sam Hurd, are you? What are you talking about?
No, recently. This was recently. There's a rapper that was on the field for what was it against the Minnesota
Not a football?
Vikings? No,
a halftime performer?
No. He was just there, but he was maybe he did something for the intro. I don't know, but he was there, and it got a little bit of news. And then 2-3 days later, he's wanted for murder. And then a week later, they were like, "No, his cousin did it, not him," or something. He had good lawyers, you know how he goes. But dude, listen, man, there was a speedy wide receiver. Yeah, I know. I got to end this. There was a speedy wide receiver, Deontay Stallworth, on the Patriots.
He was from the Saints. He was great.
Yeah, well, he
did. Dante Stallworth.
You know that, right?
He did?
Yeah, he.
But he produced.
He ran somebody over driving drunk and killed them. I believe he only spent 30 days in jail.
That sounds like Jalen Carter and Kyron Lacey, but go on.
He's rich. He could afford good lawyers, but that was after he had won Super Bowls. So yeah, whatever, man. He won Super Bowl. He was worth it while he was there. Whatever happens. Dude, I just
did Minister Charles Johnson nail this for you?
No, 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 no. It's not him. I'll send it to you, Carl. I'll send it to you on Twitter.
That
We
that
do have to end this, so
yeah,
let's gotta
it's a
keep
little
going.
bit of
I'll keep going,
we've
man.
entered the
Yeah,
shenanigans
there's
time.
worse than that,
Oh,
dude.
it's time for bed. I've been instructed by
Yeah,
the boss. It's time for bed.
Demarcus Russell loved scissor mixing the fucking
Scissor.
mixing that cough medicine with alcohol and drinking
It's
that stuff. You know
called
what the problem
it's
was?
called
You
dirty
know what the problem?
Sprite.
You know what
Dirty
the problem
Sprite.
was, Carl? He didn't produce on the field. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers
Oh,
is doing
that was the problem.
ayahuasca and this and that. It's fine as long as he's MVP. You see what I'm saying? It just is what it is,
That's
dude.
co-comment of the day,
I
as
just
well as you
choose
said.
to not ignore it, man. I face reality. It's what it is. Get with it. All right, good night.
This is
Just deepen the
amazing.
hole
Okay,
deeper and deeper.
unbelievable. You guys listening, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so very much. I'm sure we'll be doing things in the future. I don't know. Aren't you doing a show on BearskiFilm on Monday? You've got a guest?
Yes, yes. Monday we
Fantastic.
actually have Taylor Dahl. She's, I believe, does radio work in Jacksonville. Talking about the Jaguars, but she is a Bears fan, so I've been harassing her for probably like a month now to come on with us, just because I saw her on Second City Gridiron, and I really liked her takes and her opinions and things like that. And so I'm actually excited to get her opinion on the guy we hired from Jacksonville. What's his name?
Press Taylor, I thought.
Yes, Press Taylor, I believe. So yeah, it's I'm gonna have some interesting questions for her, and hopefully she's in tune over there. So I think it'll be an interesting show. So yeah, we got that lined up for Monday at 6:30. Hopefully David will be able to join me. If not, I'll be bugging you. And then of course NFL ski is probably gonna keep going, man. You and David talking about the NFL in general. I mean, through the draft, through free agency, through everything, that content is constantly available. So yeah, and I look forward to it, man. Even though I don't comment, because sometimes I have my hands a little bit full. I definitely am listening every Tuesday to you guys, and you guys make some good points too. So
Yeah, it'll be fun. I think on the Tuesday show, me and David are going to try an exercise that I'm not willing to reveal because I don't want him to have any ability to prepare for it. But it could be a conversation that lasts 15 minutes. It could be a conversation that lasts an hour. It's definitely NFL related. It's definitely broad NFL. And then I think we're going to be doing either a Super Bowl preview or I can't remember if we're doing a mock draft. We might even be doing like a quarterback ranking. I can't remember what we're going to do. But it'll be fun. And then the following week, obviously, we'll review the Super Bowl. And then at that point, it's just all off-season stuff. And then on Bears Country Productions, I think on Thursday, I think they're going to have Walt on as a guest, which Walt's the former producer. I'm hoping that that'll be a good kind of full circle moment for everyone, and I'm sure it'll be a good time, and I'll be producing that on Thursday as well. So
I'll pull a Jackson Smith and Jigba right there.
Is this live? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Is this live?
Unbelievable. I'm gonna have to make a short. I'm gonna make a short out of this, and it's gonna be Paulie's top 5 blunders of the week, and it's just gonna be home run after home run of comedy.
Yeah, I was gonna say blenders. What are you talking about, blenders? This is gold.
Blunder.
You're striking gold here, buddy.
Yeah, you're digging for oil, and it's just like spouting out of the ground. We're rich, guys. I'm gonna pull the plug on this son of a bitch. Thank you guys so very much. I cannot express how much I appreciate you guys. And until next time, everyone, bear down.